for. Don't know what I'm aiming for. I've just gotta feel it. Late night, yeah, my head be spinning around. Yeah, I was once lost, but baby, you got me feeling found. It's time to show me how it's done. This is the glow up. Come on, it's time to have some fun. Yeah, that's right. We're gonna break it down. We're giving big love. We're gonna show them how it's done. That's right. We're gonna show them. I've got to keep fighting. Strike hard, I'm like lightning. It's my life, I rewrite it. Yeah, I'm gonna show ya. Late night, yeah, my head be spinning around. Yeah, I was once lost, but baby, you got me feeling found. It's time to show me how it's done. This is the glow up. Come on, it's time to have some fun. Yeah, that's right. We're gonna break it down. We're giving big love. We're gonna show them how it's done. That's right. We're gonna show them. I know we're gonna make it. We just play the waiting game. I know that we were born for this. I know that we are stronger. We just gotta believe in something. You just gotta believe in us. I know that we were born for this. I've got to keep fighting. It's time to show them how it's done. Yeah, this is the glow up. Strike hard, I'm like lightning. It's time to have some fun. Yeah, it's my life. That's right. And I've got to keep fighting. We're giving big love. We're gonna show them how it's done. That's right. Come on. This is our time and we're gonna show them. You are the sweetest thing. Yeah. I love all the joy you bring. Yeah. But I'm coming back, knocking down the door. I'm coming back, Are you ready? Are you ready for more? Are you ready for more? Regrets, oh, I have a few. Yeah. I tried to change what I cannot undo. But I'm coming back, knocking down the door. Coming back, are you ready? 'Cause I'm coming back, knocking down the door. Coming back, are you ready for more? Oh, are you ready for more? Oh, are you ready for more? Are you ready for more? And I'm coming back, knocking down the door. Coming back, are you ready? Are you ready? Coming back, knocking down the door. Coming back, are you ready? Are you ready for more? Yeah, are you ready for more? Are you ready?
2022 saw IMSA reach the virtual world, and here in 2023, it's time to launch it into the GTP era. Welcome to Countdown to Green and to the 2023 IMSA Esports Michelin Global Championship. My name is Arjuna Kankipati, delighted to have your company here on IMSA TV and on the iRacing Esports Network. Alongside me, Lewis McLeod once more, but joining us is Greg Creamer. Lewis, though, last year you said it was a year or so in the making. It was great to do it. We've been waiting a year to get to do it again, though.
Yeah, I mean, I'm so glad this championship's back. It was so much fun last year, but it's so different this year. So much more to talk about, and honestly, a much stronger field than what we had last year. I cannot wait at all.
It's going to be a lot of fun, but of course, Greg, introduction of the GTP is a lot of excitement. How cool is it for you to see IMSA continuing to get more and more involved in the sim racing world?
I think it's absolutely fabulous, and with the return of GTP, it has just taken it to another level. And when I went back and watched some of the racing from last year with the GTD and the TCR cars, it was absolutely insanely fun. Now add about 50 miles an hour to each of those classes in terms of average lap speed, it's going to be insane.
And so let's talk you through the schedule, because a lot of it looks pretty similar to last year, but something looks quite new. It's very familiar, I think, to many, Lewis, as we run our way through the equivalent of the IMSA Michelin Endurance Cup. But in inverted order, we start with my favorite at the Michelin Raceway Road Atlanta, just of course coming after the iRacing Petit Le Mans, the real Petit Le Mans, and so many laps in the sim in the real world for these drivers.
Yeah, of course. Last year we had Laguna and Indy, or obviously to go with Road Atlanta and Daytona, so we swapped those middle two out, get Watkins Glen and Sebring in. Obviously, I've got a big love for Road Atlanta. For me, though, I am keeping my eye on Sebring. Loving seeing that on the calendar. I think that's going to be an absolute barnstorming race, and obviously, penultimate round of the championship, we're going to have a lot to talk about that week.
And Greg,
from my perspective, I have to agree with you, Arjuna. I am a massive fan of Michelin Raceway Road Atlanta. It is short, it's fast, it's furious with a lot of traffic. It is the most mentally taxing racetrack, I think, certainly in North America, perhaps globally. That's why I love this place.
And as we get ready to head into the new season of 2023, Greg, what's some of your headlines that you're thinking about heading into this first race?
Well, to me, it is the return of GTP. I mean, you think about it, the original glory area of the International Motorsports Association was a 12-year stretch from 81 to 93, when at the end of it, the rules had just gotten out of hand. It was almost the reverse of what happened with Can-Am, where it was all about engine power and insanity there. And the end of the 93, at the end of the GTP era, it was small engines basically driving just two big tunnels, and the technology was off the hook. It came back again now in 2023. The actual racing season for IMSA was absolutely phenomenal. Everything that we hoped it would be and even more. And now incorporating that into the Esports Global Championship, I think takes us to a whole new level. So Lewis, I mean, I'm so excited about GTP is back.
Yeah, I mean, for me, I'm kind of leaning a little bit more towards, again, with GTP being involved in this, what's that going to do on the traffic front? Last year, it was just GTDs and touring cars. This time, the GTP to GTD traffic speed difference is going to cause a whole host of problems. It's about staying on the right side of history when it comes to that, Arjuna. And yeah, it's going to be tricky for them. We've seen our fair share of issues with the speed difference.
Yeah, I've got my fair share of acronyms as well for how the various classes play out. But from my perspective, I'm really looking forward to seeing, can the Apex Racing team repeat their domination from 2022? 4 races, 4 victories. It's a quote that's going to be often, I think, quoted from that first year. And it's just a remarkable run in that GTD class, bumping their way far clear of the field, not just in the first 3 races, but at Daytona as well. But to kick things off, of course, we head our way to maybe my favorite track in all of North America. We go to a track that Dr. Don Panner saw plenty of vision in, but Greg Creamer, I think little could he have envisioned what it has become in the years since.
Well, absolutely, and when he got involved in it, the track had really fallen on some hard times, and he rejuvenated it and created this absolutely incredible American Le Mans series with the Petit Le Mans in 1998. And this track, as I said, it's short, about just under 2.5 miles in length, incredibly fast, and even without the infamous dip or gravity cavity over in turn 10, now replaced with that turn 10A, 10B complex, it's still exceptionally fast, and it constantly changes direction, guys. guys, and that's where this is going to, as you said, Lewis, traffic with the speeds and how they make their speeds differently with these two classes is going to be insane.
And so let's ride around for a lap of the Michelin Raceway Road Atlanta with, well, co-owner of private label Team Hype with Corvette's own Tommy Milner.
Hey everyone, I'm Tommy Milner, driver for Corvette Racing and co-owner of private label Team Hype. I'm going to take you on a quick lap around Road Atlanta. Alright, here we go, one lap at Road Atlanta. One of my favorite racetracks we go to all year, super fast, a lot of high commitment corners. Pretty tricky in multi-class racing. So here we go, down to turn 1. This first section is super important. Just a light brake back on power really early, trying to get around the outside here. Braking for turn 3 up over the curve. Again, trying to get around a GT car if you can. If not, you're stuck behind them for this whole S section. Coming down the hill to turn 5, you're stuck behind them all this way until now. Up the hill, down to turn 6. Passing opportunity on the entry to turn 6. Not so much in the turn 7 here. The GT cars are pretty fast, low speed, so just trying to get a good run coming off the 7. Putting power down. Up through the gears. Getting set up for 10A. Obviously a great passing opportunity there. But still trying to get a good run off of 10B for potentially a pass in turn 1. So late on the brakes here. Up over the curb at A, and B, using all the road at the exit. Over the hill, down the hill, turn 12 flat out. And that's one lap at Road Atlanta.
And I'm sure that we'll see Tommy Milner cheering on his drivers, Phil Kraus and Adam Blocker, in that private label Team Hype Cadillac today. What a remarkable lap it is. And Lewis, the thing that's always so scary about it is that drivers are going to be doing that almost 50 times every single hour.
Yeah, it's not an easy track. It's one of those ones where, you know, we say time and time again, if you kind of fall asleep behind the wheel, if you get complacent, it will bite. There's so many places around here that can do so. You go through the S's, you go up towards turn 5, even T1, turn 7, which in my opinion is actually the hardest corner on this track because it's got that run all the way down the backstretch towards 10A. You can't make a mistake around here because the grass will take you straight out to a barrier.
We've talked a lot about what is GTP. Well, let's see a little bit more about this revival of a classic 3 letters.
The 2023 IMSA WeatherTech Sports Car Championship marks the dawn of a new era for its premier prototype class, GTP. Your dream machine is now a reality in the form of Acura, BMW, Cadillac, and Porsche. These automotive giants have taken on this challenge to compete in what IMSA calls the Grand Touring Prototype class, meaning this machine can now compete here at home on US soil and across the pond in France, providing legendary team owners like Roger Penske and Chip Ganassi the opportunity to not only win the classic endurance races at Daytona and Sebring, but also challenge for the overall victory at Le Mans. The new car is mating the traditional internal combustion engine with electrification. The single-source hybrid powertrain will feature exceptional technology, relying on batteries that store and redeploy the energy generated during the race. This produces a combined energy output close to 700 horsepower and propels the cars to speed approaching 200 miles per hour. The vision and future of sports car racing that has been on the drawing board is now a reality in 2023.
And what a reality we saw in 2023. Greg, the championship in the IMSA WeatherTech Sports Car Championship saw so many of those drivers and all 4 manufacturers involved heading into the final round of the championship. And we've seen some electric racing over the course of the years, but I feel like this season across the board was up there in terms of quality.
Without a doubt. And I mean, you know, partly because of the innovation and the entirely different approach with this spec hybrid power unit and how you have to manage, not just drive the car, but manage the technology so much in the car. And the drivers that really adapted to that well really shone and, you know, came to the top. The cars are a little bit bigger, a little bit heavier as a result with the batteries and the like than the DPI cars. But because of the extra power and performance with that hybrid power unit, it made them so compelling to watch. And watching them hustle around Michelin Raceway Road Atlanta, Lewis, I was there for that event in person. It was absolutely breathtaking.
Yeah, I mean, watching it from the sidelines, seeing a lot of IMSA this year. I mean, we are in the golden age of sports car racing. It's so good to watch. All over the place. You're getting manufacturers jump on board. It's open for privatism. Honestly, as a fan of motorsport, to give these opportunities to drivers that, to be honest, for the most part, may not end up elsewhere in motorsport. Yeah, they may end up with a shortened career. They now get to race somewhere at the highest level in the fastest cars. Absolutely amazing, Ardina, isn't it? It's so exciting.
Yeah, the problem is now that we have all 4 of those GTPs available on iRacing, we have to bring those 3 little letters in that always cause plenty of consternation. Balance of performance, and it's no different here on the sim as we try and equalize things out across the different choices. TFR Lab have brought a partnership together with IMSA Esports and VCO to bring a custom BOP to each of these races. A data-driven approach driven by the drivers themselves. And Lewis, is important because iRacing's BOP is great for when you and me go racing, but we don't necessarily get the most out of the machines, and that's where these little adjustments come into play to make sure that each of the cars has a chance of being up there at the front.
Exactly. It's not about balancing the teams or anything. It's about balancing the cars. But at this level, the way they hustle the cars around, it's wildly different to how your normal 2.5k iRacing driver goes around. It's wildly different. But it does mean that we see some odd changes. This will change up as the season goes on. So some cars will get more heavily bopped dependent on what the circuit is. And hey, that's fine. We just we hope it's equal. And regardless, the drivers will complain about it anyway. So who knows?
Well, the good thing is every single team is required to be part of this process and submit data for at least one of the other cars that they're not competing in over the course of the season. For every single race, they are an integral part of making sure that the BOP is as close as possible. Greg, we're getting ready to go, though. I mean, it's really exciting. How tense do you think it will be for the drivers, though? Qualifying's already done. Now they're just waiting to be let loose.
Well, they know what's coming. They're familiar with this track. Everybody's been practicing. They've driven it before. And as I said, these 2 different classes of cars make their speeds differently. And when you think of the aero and the power on these GTP cars, not just mid-corner, but in the braking zones, it becomes an absolute decisive passing opportunities. If you wait too long, you're going to be lost. It's just that simple. This is all about precision today.
Yeah, certainly. Again, it goes back to that point that I was saying earlier about traffic. That's going to cause a couple of problems. So you've got to understand where your car is faster than another car if you're in the GTPs, and making sure you're lapping cleanly. Get past those GTDs as fast as possible. For the GTDs, you're just hoping you don't get sent down the road.
Well, it's time. We're ready to go racing in the 2023 IMSA Esports Michelin Global Championship. Don't go anywhere on IMSA TV and on the iRacing Esports Network. The race start coming up at the Michelin Raceway Road Atlanta.
Racing isn't easy, but experiencing it is. iRacing puts you in the driver's seat with the industry's leading sim racing game. Drive on laser scan replicas of the greatest racing circuits from around the world. Go head-to-head against other drivers chosen by skill-based matchmaking to ensure competitive racing at every level. Compete across all your favorite series. In officially licensed cars, engineered to deliver the most accurate driving experience possible. Join a race or host your own with players from across the globe. Race against the computer or in a league with friends. Feel the thrill behind the wheel. Visit iRacing.com.
You know as a driver when it's time to go.
It's going to be chaotic, a lot of cars, a lot of traffic. it's been a gunfight every single weekend of you don't know who to watch.
These are the moments that define us. Do we run, do we ride? We're taking everything we feel and blowing through the ceiling. Oh, oh, oh. This is the story they remember. No peace, no surrender. You can't kill a legend. Legends never die. Oh, oh, oh.
It's time. Almost a year after the 2022 IMSA Esports Michelin Global Championship came to a close, it returns to where it all started, the Michelin Raceway Road Atlanta, to get things underway for year number 2. We've already talked about how excited we are to see the GTPs join up with the GTDs, but myself, Arjuna Kankipati, alongside Lewis McLeod and Greg Creamer are ready for the next 2 hours and 40 minutes of racing. And that's an important number, Lewis, because it doesn't sound like a very long race by any means, but we're going to cram a lot of different action, a lot of racing into those 2 hours and 40 minutes.
Yeah, the closer we get, honestly, I'm getting goosebumps. I am ready for this. This is going to be so much fun. We had a crazy season last season, but I get the feeling that this is just going to be a whole different ball game. Everything's going to get turned up to 11. Everyone's in their final preparation phase. It's, I'm sure heart rates are rising out there.
We talked a bit about BOP and Greg. The important thing, why that's so important, we've got equal numbers of every single one of the manufacturers represented out there. 5 of each car in the GTP and the GTDs will do a battle. It's a great thing to see, though, the diversity of the cars on iRacing represented in the grid as well.
It is, and very often you'll see in the top 3, in the top 5, those manufacturers will all be represented. They've really got it right. And the BOP, of course, is absolutely critical. And, you know, you've got to get those numbers down. One of the things I really like about this, as I was reading up on some of the rules here, is that you take a member of a different team that drives your car to help determine BOP. You know, they might slag a little bit driving their own car, but they're going to push yours like mad. Well, that full circle comes around. I think there's going to be really good data, Arjuna, for these teams, for the BOP to really be spot on, which means great racing.
We announced IMSA Esports and back in 2022 in the State of the Sport with John Doonan, and so we chat now once again with John Doonan, president of IMSA. And what a remarkable 2022 we had in the esports world, and then a great 2023 in the real world as well. New cars, championship battles, and coming to an end. John, talk to us a little bit about the year that we've had.
First of all, it's great to be with everybody today, and thanks for tuning in. You're right, what a year. If someone had told me back in January at the Rolex that we would come to Motul Petit Le Mans at Michelin Raceway and have the WeatherTech Sports Car Championship come down to 4 really eligible teams, 6 mathematically in the mix, I wouldn't have believed them. But testament to the rule set that was built by our technical team at IMSA in conjunction with the folks at the ACO, really special what the LMDH regulations generated to bring back the GTP name, historic part of IMSA is really special. So couldn't be happier with where we ended up. And as you and everybody else knows who saw State of the Sport, we're in for an extra big treat next year with more GTP cars in full fields throughout.
I think the really cool thing as well is we have all 4 of the GTP cars now available on iRacing, and in a pretty short turnaround to them joining the real world. Can you tell us a little bit about that process of collaborating between iRacing, the manufacturers, and IMSA as well to make this possible for fans around the world?
It was, and you know, I was thinking about it before we came on air here. You know, back when I was a kid, you know, the Ataris, the Nintendos, and then, you know, you went to the local you know, video gallery or the video arcade, and Pole Position had come out, and the graphics and everything were so spectacular at that time. But what iRacing, what VCO have brought into reality for us with these real race cars, the GTP cars now eligible with the collaboration with Acura, BMW, Cadillac, and Porsche to make this happen. Hopefully soon to be Lamborghini and Alpine as well. You know, for people to first see them, and the fans came out in big numbers at the races. They tuned in record numbers on NBC and NBC sports platforms. And now to have a fan, or obviously in this case, pro and top level sim racers get the chance to drive those cars, just like all the factory teams and in some cases customer teams got to do. It's really remarkable how far things have come in this space.
Can you tell us a little bit as well about why a commitment to IMSA Esports is important, and not just to IMSA itself, but to the growth of making sure sim racing and esports continues to prosper?
You know what's funny is when I first came to IMSA in 2019, I sat down with the team and wanted to learn what had been done in this space. Obviously, the team had done a great job building a bunch of different partnerships to have that in our portfolio. Then, of course, March 2020 happens and it became the way for us to go racing. And so it's been really incredible to see how much this particular category has grown around the world, but especially for IMSA. At first it was our drivers in the mix in those 2020 races. Now to have these top teams, 28 of the top teams in the world competing, really makes me happy, because that takes our sport into a bigger space. But for Michelin to make the commitment they have, obviously VCO has been a great help, and of course we wouldn't be able to do it without the iRacing platform. And I think also how far that has come in the many years that I've been in the sport. We, back in my previous life, developed the MX-5 Cup car. While we were developing the MX-5 Cup car on the track, we simultaneously built the car in iRacing. So I'm really proud of the fact that we have this in our portfolio in general, but I'm really, really excited that it's not only been a training ground for our drivers, but it's been a space where professional sim racers and general fans can take part.
It's only our second season, but of course, we've seen so much competition enter and express their interest in joining the field. What are you feeling that we've got in store for ourselves in 2023? 4 classic tracks and new cars, but some new faces as well.
Yeah, when my team mentioned where we were headed, just the sheer numbers is incredible. But to have the best of the best, that's what IMSA stands for in the beginning of time. In the WeatherTech Sports Car Championship, you get the best teams, the best drivers, the best manufacturers competing at the best circuits in the world. And now with the technology and the way it's come with iRacing, you got all the tracks that we race on in the game, in the sim rather, and now to have the best of the best from around the world taking part. That's what we stand for, and I'm really thrilled to see the growth. Really proud of the IMSA team that's led this effort, and obviously we wouldn't be able to do it without our long-term partners. So I hope everybody enjoys the action. It just continues to get more and more real with time, and I'm really excited to see who comes out on top.
Thank you so much, John, for joining us. We joined you at the start of 2022, and we can't wait to see what the 2023 IMSA Esports campaign has in store. And we are moments away from the green flag. Let's run you down to trackside, where the field's ready to roll for the full formation lap. We got time to run you down through the starting grid, and boy, is it a shock to see the Altus machine on the front row, pipping the likes of Diogo Pinto, Charlie Collins, and Josh Ladd. It's Eduardo Leo that will lead us to the green to kick off 2023. It's the Apex Racing team then, and Peter Berryman that will line up alongside Owen Carroll in the XF Cadillac that plenty will be watching on, while Michael Romanidis and Fraser Williamson are behind on row 4. It's Arturo Melgar for Drago's number 69 alongside Daniel Kraft, while Sam Michaels and Nicholas Boy are on the 6th row of the grid. It's Dominic Hoffman in the Urano Esports car, victorious earlier today in the BMW MSIM Cup, but he's got some work to do back in 7th alongside the Stetson-wearing Austin Young, Pablo Lazar, and Peter Zuba behind them, with Adam Blocker in that private label Team Hype Machine for Tommy Milner alongside Satellite Racing and Alex Ellis. It's Orion Race Team, and then the Invitational Wildcard, the Nitro Circus Sim Racing team that joins us for this first round on the 10th row, and then Nathan Olson starts at the very back of the 21-car GTP field. And of course, it's not just about them, it's about the GTDs as well. It will be Alejandro Sanchez and the defending champions kicking things off right on top in their brand new Mercedes AMG ART. It's 1:16, 6:22 that will lead them to the green. Alongside Gianni Vecchio, though, in the Ferrari for Team Redline, Alex Dunn, and then Sven Haase on the second row with Josh Thompson in the second Redline Ferrari alongside Bill Denez in the BS Turner car that grabbed third in the championship a year ago. The Porsche Esports Super Cup champion Jordan Caruso in a Porsche alongside Alessandro Bico, while Antiohola and Daniel Pastor make up the rest of the top 10, with Luca Kita and then Damon Woods behind them. Rolling through the rest because there's 25 cars to get through. It's Pure Sims and Simufy on the 7th row, Altus and then Marla on the 8th row, with Brabham and then the Impulse Racing teams on the 9th row of the group bid. It's Arnage, Drago, Delta Sport, Urano, Grid and Go, and Kawanda through the top 24. And last but not least, in that final starting spot in the GTD class, it will be back in the 25th position, Maniti Racing in the 178 after they were barred from qualifying. We've only got a couple of corners left to go. Some closing thoughts. Lewis, how about you first?
Yeah, I mean, the most important thing for a lot of these drivers, they've got to keep it on the road. Michelin keys to the race. Keep it on the road. Can't make a mistake around here, except that you are going to lose time in traffic. Don't let that get to your head. And of course, do not underestimate your rivals. There are a lot of underdogs on this field. You never know who they are. Just keep eyes on what you're doing.
Thank you so much for joining us here on IMSA TV on the iRacing Esports Network to kick off the 2023 IMSA Esports Michelin Global Championship. 4 races, $25,000 on the line, and the GTP class introduced. The drivers head down to the starting zone. They ignored the drop of the green flag. The field left in control of Eduardo Leo as we enter into the starting zone to get the 2023 IMSA Esports Michelin Global Championship underway. And already Satellite Racing have been tagged before they even got to the line. In towards turn 1. More smoke as well as Fraser Williamson in one of the CrowdStrike cars has been involved as well. So much drama for the GTPs as they get underway. But now we wait for the GTDs to run their way under the Fox Factory Bridge and to the starting zone of their own volition. They will hopefully have not much GTP drama to overlap themselves with Lewis, but here they go into the starting zone.
Yeah, that was a messy start from the GTB boys. Let's see what we see in the GTD category. Slightly cleaner here, no crash on the start finish. They're racing their way down to that first corner. It is the Mercedes AMG ART holding the hold shot. Look at the Grid and Go car though, straight down the inside, trying to fight their way past. I think that's the Team Redline, isn't it? Just dropping back a little bit on the start.
And so it's Apex 1 and 2 over the crest of turn number 3.
Whoa,
the GTDs now see one of the Mercs, and I think that was the Williams car that was off and into the wall at turn number 3. It's caused all sorts of chaos, and Greg, a bit of a messy start to the opening round of the championship.
Well, I think it's those nerves everybody was talking about. Everybody wanted to get after it. Remember, the GTP cars, it takes them a little bit of time to get their tires up to pressure and temperature, and I think they just over-hustled down into turn 1. That's where we saw them go off. Didn't really see what happened on the run down to the flag when one of the cars went off here. It looked like the GTD boys were going to be just fine. Then they had their moments up in turn 3.
And so they now have a bit of separation. It looks as though it's the top 6 that scamper away with the Team 75 machine of Antiohola under pressure by Luca Kita as they work their way down into turn 10A. Remember, it's only a couple of laps that these drivers will get, Lewis, without no traffic interaction. The first cycle through traffic as well, it's always the most fearsome.
Yeah, I mean, they're going to be really tight together. By the way, taking a look at some of those instances, there's so much to go through and all that. I think the Simify got into the back of the Dur Esports, which caused the drama at the top of the hill. It's like you say, Williams went off in all of that. Plenty more cars, CrowdStrike and Race Clutch down the order, already hitting early drama. It was always expected, though, that someone was going to be in the wars at the start.
And so let's grab a look at the start, and like we said, they had to wait till they enter the starting zone. Satellite Racing in the 64 are going to run their way down through that final corner, and as they get the command, it's just concertinas all up, and then big damage to the bodywork goes flying, the new damage model on display. And then I believe it's Race Clutch, or excuse me, that's the CrowdStrike car comes together with the Wave Italy machine, and that's Fraser Williamson with big damage and Greg Dunn instantly.
Done instantly, you can see it knock the suspension completely off, was crabbing sideways. Game done for them. And the other thing, keep an eye on already, folks, we're seeing lap times in the 106 range from the GTPs. We're seeing lap times in the 140 range. They are going to catch the back of the GTD field already.
And here we go, that's the Simufy Porsche that Eduardo Leo gets on through, and I gotta say, what an impressive start it's been from the Italian to have put the Diogo Pinto-led BMW M Team Redline car without too much pressure onto them as they work down the back straightaway. Cowander's VRS machine has Charlie Collins up in 3rd, and then Josh Ladd, Peter Berryman 4th and 5th position. We'll work our way over the top of turn 11 as well, with a couple of cars, including the Williams machine of Alessandro Bico, diving down towards the pit lane. Lewis, I see at least 6 cars currently waiting there for repairs.
Yeah, it's busy in the pit lane, like you say. One of the Altus Esports, Jordan Caruso in there, Dur Esports, Fraser Williamson, Peter Zuber representing Race Clutch in there, as well as Alessandro Bico. So quite a few coming down straight away, but now we're already entering that first part of lap traffic. Brabham getting out of the way in that Lambo, riding on board with Leah. This is, like you say, the sketchy time. You don't really want to be the first driver to come across all of this, because this is where things can get very messy indeed.
They've got the Michelin tyres, though, mostly up to temperature, you have to assume at this point. And so as now you come into turn 6, this is where turn 7, it's tighter than 90 degrees. Greg, it's so important to get onto the hybrid power and spool your way down this back straightaway.
Well, for all of the iconic corners here, there is none more important than turn 7. It launches you, 1, onto that long straight, 2, into by far the best overtaking area on the track. If you struggle coming out of 7, you carry that deficit all the way to the braking zone of 10. It's huge.
Let's play a bit of a game if you're watching on IMSA TV on the iRacing Esports network. Let's get an over-under count going. How many incidents Race Control is going to have to take a look at? We're already up to about 7 so far. Let's take a look at the start, though, for the GTDs. There was chaos for the GTPs, and similarly, even though it's Apex 1 and 2 with the defending champions running up the hill cleanly with now 2 or 3 laps complete. Further back for the Michelin-liveried Pure Sims car, watch as the Dur Esports car, Lewis, heads up to turn 3.
Yeah, watch that orange and black car. So you've got the Simify car go straight into the side of Dur, right in front of the Pure Sims, and of course those going over are Naj also going over. I think Williams had already gone off on the right-hand side, kind of out of shot. So it was contact, Simify getting down the inside, Tristan Iglesias behind the wheel as we ride on board with some of the GTPs trying to work their way through. Of course, this is second on the Michelin on boards, trying to get their way through BMW Team Red Line. You can see the Altus Esports car as we pass now the head of the GTD field. I did want to make one note, by the way. Alejandro Sanchez on pole position. Do you know what? That's the 3rd consecutive pole position for him in that GTD category, because he finished out the season with back-to-back poles. So he's looking really strong in that category right now, and he's got his teammate directly behind him.
And let's not forget that, of course, that it was in a slightly different car last year. Apex have switched over from the Porsche to the Mercedes and aligned as a customer team, but despite that actually split their efforts into a Mercedes and a BMW and still run 1 and 2. Look at this, though, as we run our way to the line once more. Greg, it's the continued overlap of the traffic as they fight 2 different classes for their own individual races.
Well, and that's really the magic of it. I always call multi-class sports car racing high-speed chess, because all the pieces move differently. And, you know, think about it, folks. When you have a car designed around high downforce, when you get into turns like turn 7, into 10A, 10B, the GTD cars can actually be a little bit quicker. But the prototypes with all that downforce get into those corners. It helps braking so much. And this track changes direction constantly, guys. There is absolutely not a minute's rest here.
And I love that on the left side of the screen, you see those manufacturers. It's a Cadillac, a BMW, and a Porsche 1, 2, and 3. The first of the Acuras in the GTP is the CrowdStrike 4 with Sam Michaels behind the wheel. That's down in 8th position. Then you look at the GTDs. It's Mercedes, AMG, then BMW, 3 Ferraris, and the first of the Porsches all the way down with Team 75's Antiola in what is a wonderfully liveried effort that matches what that team runs in DTM over in Germany in the real world, down in 8th position. But that balance of performance doesn't do much, Lewis, when you're talking about these gains, these marginal gains in traffic that all the teams are dealing with.
Yeah, at the moment, I mean, to be fair, you can have the fastest car on circuit, but you can't show it right now. You've got to, I mean, this goes back to Michelin Keys of the Race. You've got to remain calm. You can't overstate like how difficult traffic is. The closing speed of these GTPs is unreal. They are so fast, particularly through corners like turn 1 and turn 5. They can take so much more speed through it. And when you go through the turn 4 and then up the S section that we're looking at here, you can't do anything. If you look for an overlap here, you will crash both of you off. You've got to be careful. You've got to remain patient, except this is 2 hours and 40 minutes. Yes, it's not the longest race in the world, but it's not short either.
We've taken out safety cars from the mix compared to 2022 as well, so there's no bunching back up of the field, the reordering, much like in the IMSA WeatherTech Sports Car Championship in the IMSA Michelin Pilot Challenge, where, of course, cars a lap down or so can get wave around to cycle their way back on through. Here, though, is a car that I think plenty are going to be watching on, and it's really a car that's dropped back in this first cycle of traffic. It's the Cadillac, the exec number 95. with Owen Carroll behind the wheel. Of course, he's teamed up with Casey Kerwin, the 2022 eNASCAR Coca-Cola iRacing Series champion, and I think plenty of people will be watching on and curious how things are going to go. Greg standing by, though, with Casey.
Hey Casey, this has got to be an interesting experience for you driving at in this category at these speeds around this absolutely insane track, but I see a big smile.
Yeah, for people that know me over the past year, I've absolutely fallen in love with the multi-class and the IMSA stuff, and these new GTP cars. The fact that we got all of them on iRacing has been super cool, and I've been driving the Caddy since the day it came out so much. So yeah, people have asked me if I've ever wanted to try my hand at pro level road racing with the amount that I've done lately, and I've kind of always said if I'd ever give it a try, it'd be in the IMSA deal. And yeah, I got the opportunity to do it and got a great teammate in Owen, who's doing a great job so far. And yeah, put a lot of practice in, more than I've ever done for anything on the roadside, and feel like I have decent pace, and just want to minimize my mistakes and hopefully have a good race. But yeah, it's just been a lot of fun, and now that we're in the off season, the NASCAR stuff kind of gives me something to be a little competitive in and try something new.
From your perspective, what does the Cadillac have as an advantage over the other three cars in the category?
I think we have a little bit of straight line speed advantage. I think we lack kind of in the high speed, like first sector really, or first two sectors to like BMW and Acura. But I think we have straight line advantage, and we're a bit easier on the tires. So I think over a stint, it's honestly quite equal between all the cars. So yeah, I think hopefully, take care of the tires and just manage traffic well, and see if we can gain some track position over time and see how we shake out.
As you said, traffic management, tire management, also crucial here. Have some fun.
Yeah, thanks, man.
Nice little chat there with Casey, who, yeah, has been doing plenty of racing in this Cadillac, and it's going to be curious how he's paired up with Owen Carroll, who has been getting quicker and quicker by his own right, not just someone who's a great content creator, but rapid behind the wheel of the machines as well. Alejandro Sanchez has broken clear courtesy of the traffic, though, as we watch Ben Haase in a bit of a bread sandwich here. Very careful about how I make this analogy, because Lewis McLeod is in the commentary booth as well. It's a virtual coach by Grid and Go sandwich with red line bread.
You're absolutely spot on. Well done. Obviously correct on that. Alex Dunn's obviously worked his way past Gianni Vecchio, which has given a 2-second lead, or rather he was already ahead, but he's dropped back into the clutches rather of Gianni Vecchio, and now you've got the pressure building behind. Alejandro Sanchez is gone. Checked out now to 2 seconds. Obviously, I think some of that is through traffic, and you can see there Vecchio trying to work his way past the runner-up in the 2023 GB3 Championship. Obviously I've got to give him a bit of a shout out. He's such a nice guy.
Who commentates that championship, by the way?
Oh, someone terrible. Me.
Yeah, that Lewis guy, he's awful.
Thank you.
Back up towards the front, I was just noting as well that while Redline run 3 and 5 in GTD, they also have Diogo Pinto paired up with Chris Lullum in at number 71, and they are very much hounding the back of Eduardo Leo in that Altus Esports car. Greg, I've got to ask, you're a relatively young driver, you've been exposed to top-level competition, but maybe not something this serious, and now you've got a world champion behind you. What do you think it does to the mindset of a driver under that kind of pressure?
Well, you could go really two ways, can't you? You could sort of just, fold, kind of get into your head a little bit and just start to make little mistakes, over-hustle the car. Or you could just say, look, the best defense is a good offense. Just continue to hit your marks and just find that speed. And what I love about these moments, Arjuna, is this is the opportunity when somebody like you said who's young can really test themselves. And when they shine in this moment, it gives you a boost of confidence that is just immeasurable and just launches you in here. So absolutely great opportunity, no question.
So down the hill, out towards the line they go once again. Here's your race leader, the Spaniard Alejandro Sanchez, switched over, of course, from IMSA Esports over to the Apex Racing team a couple of years ago, but his teammate Luke McEwen is getting ready once again to chat to Greg Creamer.
Hey Luke, great to have you with us here. Obviously you're really interested in what's going on out there right now, and having a pretty good run here in the number 101, sitting in that lead spot right now. What are you seeing from what you're watching on track? Obviously he's been able to open up a little gap.
Yeah, I mean, Alejandro first put in a mega quali lap. Like, even he said it was pretty flush, so really happy with that. Then it's about getting through the first round of traffic, manage it as well as possible, and he's done that. So just checking off the boxes for a perfect stint here, start the race.
The other question I was going to ask, the Mercedes is, sort of traditionally known as being really, really good on bumps and curbs. And while this is a smooth racetrack, you've got to be really aggressive on the curbs here. You think that's that part of the plan of why you guys opted for the Mercedes?
Yeah, I mean, this car is a good all-round car. Yeah, it's been good around here, and hopefully it'll be good for the rest of the tracks over the course of the season. So yeah, we're really looking forward to seeing what we can do in it.
Well, it sure sounds nice, Luke. Have some great fun when you get on board.
Thank you.
Let's cycle to the battle for P4 in the GTDs. Of note as well, P4 in the GTPs as Charlie Collins, who's dropped back from Josh Ladd in that Williams Esports BMW hybrid in that Porsche 963. Coanda, by the way, one car. Just keep an eye on them with fuel mileage. They may be trying to cut a pit stop out from this race. Not sure if that's going to happen, though, in the number 91 or in the number 92. But look at the train behind the virtual coach GG by G&G. That's a mouthful of a name there, Lewis. You got Sven Haase there, Josh Thompson, Phil Denez, Luca Kita. I mean, these are some of the top drivers that we've been commentating on over the last 12 months.
Yeah, it's a tight one. Obviously, in that battle for fourth, we know BS Turner absolutely rapid. So yeah, we'll have to wait and see if BS Turner can get themselves back involved. You can see Traffic once again being a big part of it. I can see they might though be losing out 6th position to 7th. We do though, Arjuna, I think have a new race leader in BMW and Team Redline.
It is Diogo Pinto that's hit the front flying the flag, of course, for the BMW Motorsports crew. And as the margin builds to a second, as they dive down into the S's once more, now onto the 14th lap of the race. Let's cycle back and I think take a look at how it actually happened and how Eduardo Leo dropped down to second. It was out of the final corner where Traffic's going to play its part, Greg, as they work their way to the line.
Yeah, you could see the leader at the time, Eduardo Leo, just had to check up a little bit behind the Mercedes, and that just gave enough of a run to Diogo that he was able to slice through. And the interesting thing I've been watching here is that Diogo was right behind Eduardo. He could not shake him, could never get that margin up to over half a second. Now that he's through, he's already gapped him to almost 1.5 seconds. So there is some serious speed in that BMW right now.
And let's go back to the iRacing Petit Le Mans just a handful of weeks ago, because, Lewis, it was BMW Team Redline up against the Williams Esports number 11 with Josh Ladd and Matt Farrow, effectively on the same strategy. And there were many different strategies at play over the 10 hours of that race. This is slightly different, though. 2 hours, 40 minutes. Realistically, we're talking just one driver change. And yes, there's one team that's thinking they may cut out a pit stop, but for the most part, it's a bit of a sprint to the end.
Yeah, I mean, it's the whole thing of across races like this. We've spoken about it before with a 2 hour, 40-minute race distance like what we did last season. It's an awkward number. 2 hours, you kind of got a bit more of an understanding as to what to do. You know, in the GTPs, it's an easy two-stop. But for everyone else, it's kind of a bit more open. The 62 making its way onto pit lane. That's the Hydro Race Geodesic Racing. So they're making a pit stop after just, 17 minutes? That is very early. I did make a note, by the way, Impulse Racing came down onto pit road to serve a penalty. That's Matthew Victoriano. So clearly they've picked some form of issue through the opening portion of this race.
And I see as well that for a couple of other drivers, the race control things are starting to work their way on through. So there are drive-through penalties that, of course, mentioned for Impulse Racing, but Drago Racing potentially as well, the next to be involved. And we're already up on the race control roulette board to 19. So 20 minutes in, those incident numbers are climbing. This is what I was talking about, though, with VRS Coanda and the Apex Racing team. You've got Charlie Collins, the Welshman, racing from the Coanda Esports Hub in Groniau, and then Peter Berryman in that Apex Racing number 99, hot on his heels. Now, these drivers have lost some ground, but Greg, this is what Traffic sometimes does. You can't afford to get too lost up in the weeds of things. Traffic will give and Traffic will take.
Well, that's the thing. You know, one of the things, you know, when I've been calling racing at this level with multi-class, I talk about the 3 Ps: pace, pits, minimize time in the pits, and patience. Well, here it's like 5 Ps, and 3 of them are patience. You know, you've got to be decisive and make your move, but if you cannot get somebody cleanly up into 3, you've got to be willing, knowing you're going to lose a little bit of time all the way through 5. But it's better than hitting them, knocking a dive plane off the car, upsetting the balance. Beautiful late pass here by the 99 of Berryman. Beautiful dive move down into turn 10. Classic pass, getting around Charlie Collins. But you've got to be patient, and as you said, be willing to accept that it's going to come back to you at some point.
And as the Corby crew get up on forward, Charlie Collins did have a thought about trying to get back at it, but not going to go for it. That was a beautifully judged move, and I think now we'll wait to see, Lewis, if this is where fuel games start to come into play, but we also have to wonder how the BOP is going to affect the balance of the cars over what is effectively a 42-odd lap stint.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, Charlie's well versed at racing. Like, he understands what he's doing. He knows how to apply his craft, and he knows if he's playing a slightly longer game, maybe he knows already Pete Berryman might not be. Don't get kind of rolled up in someone else's strategy. It was a brilliant move. You could see how much earlier Collins was off the throttle, going down to 10. So was kind of like letting the car roll into the corner. Pete Berryman's not having any of that. He wants to get after this. He's seeing there being a big gap up ahead, as we can see in the bottom, the battle for third. Again, we're seeing Dunn being under a lot of pressure here. He's currently sat in that second spot.
Yeah, they have closed on the Irishman in the 199, and this is the curious thing for the Apex Racing team. Red line behind have got 2 Ferraris entered into the series, so they're able to coordinate their efforts. They can plan out strategies, work on setups together, and really dial things in, whereas the Apex Racing team do have plenty of drivers. Lewis wants to join the Apex Racing Academy, but rightly so. They haven't accepted that application just yet. But they've got to set up 2 different cars, Greg, and that's always its challenge, an interesting challenge in and of itself. But counterintuitively, they also maybe have a better understanding of how the race is going to play out with both of the sets of data that they can build.
Well, anytime you can double your data is a good thing, right? As long as you don't get lost in the numbers. But the nice thing is that you can do a couple of different setups on the car, see which one is working. You could do one car for speed runs and quality. You could do one that is a little bit more of an endurance run, fuel conservation, etc. See where you need to be. It always plays into your hands to have that little bit of an advantage. And right now, Gianni Vecchio here in the Team Redline Ferrari just glued to the back of Dunn as they climb up through turn 1, 2, and up into turn 3. Actually, my favorite corner on the track right here.
And don't forget, if you're enjoying this sort of action for GTPs, plenty of GTDs, and recently teased that the new Evo version of the Audi R8 coming to iRacing. Well, new memberships are 40% off. There's never been a better time to join the fun. Head on to iRacing.com to learn how to start your iRacing career today. And who knows, you could be part of the 2024 IMSA Esports Global Championship. I'll just point out that we haven't talked about it too much, but this is, at least for the time being, much like IMSA in the real world, kind of an invite-only championship. A lot of these teams, Lewis, we've seen them compete at the very top level in these cars over the course of the last year or two. The goal for the next year and building forward is to offer opportunities for new drivers to make their way into the series, which means you better get practicing, because these are the best in iRacing.
Yeah, I got a bit of traffic management again happening here. This is where, watching on with some of the world's best at this, you kind of might want to learn a couple of things if you're going to get yourself involved in this. Like I say, it's always great that we have the special events across the year where you get to go and take part in Petit Le Mans, you get to do the Daytona 24-hour and all that kind of stuff. But this championship, sometimes you need to have that little bit where it's a bit closed off. Yes, of course, we want to open it up in future. We want everyone involved, but seeing a grid of the very best drivers on planet Earth wrestle their way through traffic like what we're seeing here on board with BS Competition. It's just, it's an amazing sight, because I'm watching it being like, yeah, I could do this. And then I realize when I try, well, I can't. Let's put it that way.
No, we had a race. Oh, well, you I think, got scared a bit of the race that we were meant to have back at Gamers 8, but I was battling with Jardier, so I was clearly faster than you.
I won my race.
Oh, so, okay, you were in a different race. That's what.
Yeah.
Now I'm remembering.
I know, I won it.
See those manufacturers again on the left-hand side of the screen. It's nice and mixed up at the front with various different manufacturers moving on forward, but now 20 minutes into this race. Greg, we're almost halfway through the fuel window for these GTP machines. The good thing is, in the sim world, we're just talking real fuel. We don't have to talk virtual energy budgets and all of those things.
But you still want to do a little conserving, because anything you can do, right, to extend that fuel window just gives you a little bit better options. And remember, too, you've got to be really careful about tires here. It's not brutally hard on tires here. It's got pretty decent grip as well, but you're in those long right-hand corners forever. Those left-hand tires take a pasting, and you can even run tilt in the chassis to try and eliminate some of that off balance through these corners where you it isn't crossweight, it's running a little different ride height, side to side. Oh, touch right there. That was so close.
That was Phil Denez getting the elbows out on Josh Thompson in the 171, the second of the red line cars, and it was all set up just through traffic as the red line machine got a little bit checked up, lost its momentum, and Denez, in the car that finished third in points in 2022, wasn't waiting around and managed to work its way on forward to fifth. Let's not forget that as the Pure Sims Acura says hello and sends it up the inside of turn number 7, that split liveried machine Lewis ran in the real world for a second time this year back at Sebring. And you know what happened? Robbie Foley in the IMSA Michelin Pilot Challenge went on to victory lane.
And you got some bias towards this car, and you do love a bit of BS
Turner shirt?
He does love a bit of BS Turner, and to be fair, great livery, and again, it's a great story for the world of sim racing and the world of motorsport. It's amazing to see, and again, that car, as we see a bit more of the traffic coming through, looking backwards from of course Alex Dunn, BS and this circuit, they go quite well. We did the BMW Emson Cup around here. They did have a 1-2 in qualifying, and there's a look down the inside from Haase at T1.
And that's what we know that Haase will want to do. With 3 wide up into turn 3 as the Coanda GTP car gets on through, but Haase's desperation lunge not going to pay dividends there as Orion and now Satellite try and slide their way on through. But as you take a look at the full timing screen on the left for the 25 GTD machines, Greg, that was a nervy moment.
Incredibly nervy, and the one thing that these GTP cars have to remember is at some point the GTD guys, particularly on the S's, have to turn. They just can't stay out there forever because eventually they're just going to run out of road. And the other part of it for these GTP cars, when you make a pass, you have to consider that that GTD car may still be just up alongside you. You've got to make sure that you've cleared them, even when you're making just cut and thrust moves like we're seeing them make here on this run down into turn 10.
If you're watching on IMSA TV on the iRacing Esports Network, don't forget to throw some of your questions into the chat. You've got some experienced sim racing viewers and commentators, allegedly, helping you walk through all the action. So happy to help where you can, and of course our team at VCO is helping as well to get you involved. Don't forget to go follow them on social media. Josh Chin, Elliot Roberts hard at work to bring plenty of media from today's event, especially because there's battles up and down through the field. Delta Sport and Karl Modoff in the Lamborghini are involved in a fight in and amongst themselves, and I must say, Lewis, that Michelin livery for the Pure Sims 116, it manages to make that front grille look quite good.
Yeah, well, I mean, normally it looks hideous, in my opinion, but no, we were talking about this a bit earlier on. I'm liking the fact that, again, I like it when you do something a bit more inventive with a livery, so it's great to see a Michelin-sponsored car, Pure Sims as well, in a car that doesn't look like an Apex Racing Team car, so that's also another victory, but it is a tight fight here, just a bit further back. Like you can see, it's 13th position they're fighting off at the moment. Lucas Prada's trying to find some way past that Delta Sport car. You can see you've got the likes of Brabham, you've got Altus behind as well. You start fighting and you'll get caught up by some of those groupings behind. And there is a lot of two-way fights at the moment as Dom Hoffman is involved in this fight with Michaels.
And I must say, it is great to see the Urano Esports car not in black and red and now in a slightly differentiatable livery in the field that we often see in GTP there. Just in front, as mentioned, of the best of the CrowdStrike cars. Fraser Williamson's CrowdStrike entry, of course, got involved at the start with the tussle. He is going to finish, unfortunately, dead last. But CrowdStrike Racing, strong supporters of IMSA in the real world. Greg, make their transition over for a second consecutive year, partnering up with Movano into the virtual world.
Yeah, CrowdStrike, they've just been a remarkable partner out of motorsports, you know, getting involved on a lot of different levels. You see them on the Mercedes Formula One car. They are deeply into this sport. And, you know, George Kurtz, who's one of the co-founders of it, races himself, absolutely passionate about it. And the sport very lucky to have a partner like CrowdStrike. And it makes sense for them, doesn't it? With all of the tech, all of the data that comes flowing out of these cars, to have a cybersecurity partner, that's all part of it. And it's great to see it. One thing I've noticed, too, guys, is a huge, big battle right here, right now for the number 89, Nicholas Beau, and he's got some serious pressure. Is that Lazar?
It is Pablo Lazar in the Obsidian number 96, and Yeah, I'll just point out as well, when it comes to that CrowdStrike entry, they've got one driver that actually works at CrowdStrike Racing, CrowdStrike, so it's quite cool to see him representing the brand in the CrowdStrike Racing colors. Nicholas Boy, of course, was flying at the start of the iRacing Petit Le Mans, unfortunately got a little bit tangled up with traffic in the first hour of the race. That sent the BMW back in the field, and after these guys qualified down in 12th position, they're already back up to 9th spot and trying to work their way on forward. But from up above, the look as they climb up into turn number 3. Lewis, your boy Alex Dunn, he's costing these drivers some time right now, I tell you.
Yeah, he's struggling a little bit at the moment, of course, is Alex Dunn, but he's still plenty fast enough. We're now looking over the shoulder, basically, of the BS Turner car. Phil Denez, we were watching that enthralling battle with himself, with Josh Thompson behind. You know, a few of these drivers are on this grid. They kind of got a bit dejected, including the likes of Josh Thompson, with what happened was on Saturday night with the Porsche Contender Series and not getting through into Pest. So, you know, this is kind of like a redemption arc for some of these to try and get something from it as the 64 Satellite Racing car returns to pit lane. But this is for a penalty.
It's Alex Ellis. We saw Satellite around on the race start. It was deemed their own fault. So not only the injury from the incident, but now the ignominy of the penalty as well, going the way of the 64, and what are some rather unique and new colors for a team that is one of not the oldest in sim racing, but certainly has plenty of history across so many different disciplines. As your race leader, I do believe that's the BMW M Team Redline number 71. Yes, it was the number 1 LED board on the left, making it nice and easy. That is Diogo Pinto with a 2.5 second lead over Eduardo Leo in the Altus number 43. And now Leo increasingly under pressure from Josh Ladd in the Williams Esports car. The top 3 are very much pulling away, though, from the rest of those behind, Greg.
They are, and I've been watching, you know, Pinto, when he's got nice clear track, he's in the high to mid 106s frequently. At last lap, he ran a 108, but Eduardo Leo couldn't do much with it because he ran a mid 107. So it wasn't a huge gain. But to me, one of the big stories here is after Alex Dunn kind of got caught in traffic, and that let Vecchio and Haase come right back to him again, they've kept him occupied. And Alejandro Sanchez, as a result, for that Team ART, Mercedes has just blown away, up to almost 5 seconds clear, guys.
And Lewis, didn't you say it's 3 pole positions in a row for Alejandro?
It certainly is. Took pole position in the last 2 races of last season and in this one as well. So he's looking like the man to beat when it comes to speed, at least.
And consistency as well, let's be real. As he builds is a remarkable 5-second gap after just 30 minutes of racing. We're almost done with the first 40 minutes of the race, and as it's not just Eduardo Leo feeling the pressure, the margin for the race lead grows now to almost 4 full seconds. The battle for 9th with your GTPs as Nicholas Boy continues to work on forward. Pablo Lazar is just in front, then CrowdStrike, Sam Michaels, Dominic Hoffman in that Urano car. Not much further up to Xset, to Charlie Collins, to the Apex Racing team. Really, I'm looking at this, the battle for 9th is only about 7 seconds away from being a battle for 4th position. It just goes to show how aggressive the first couple of cars have been in working their way through traffic. 46 started, from what I can see. We still have a full complement of about 43, 44 out there and running, but plenty of them have been down and through the wars and onto pit lane for significant periods of time, Lewis. Endurance racing spirit, though, these drivers and teams know they've got to rack up points early doors.
Yeah, a lot of them will just get straight back out on the track and at least try and finish. You know, it's only 2 hours and 40 minutes and they've done a lot of preparation for it. The first thing that you want to greet is the checkered flag. Sometimes, though, it can be very frustrating, all this, like you say, for CrowdStrike, for Drug Racing, for Race Clutch. Early issues for them. We saw the Hydro Race Geodesic Racing car come straight back onto pit lane. You know, we've seen issues for Satellite over the opening portion of the race, and that's just in the GTP category, not even contending with what we've seen in the GTDs as well. It's been a very dramatic day to start the season, and with such a short championship, those that are already starting the season on the back foot are already having a bad race here at Road Atlanta. Well, I almost think you might well be kissing the championship goodbye.
This is that American liveried Xset number 95. Greg, I've got to ask you a question here. I shocked Brian Till with a stat about how much drivers end up prepping for races like these. How many hours do you think a driver would have done on average to get ready for this race?
You know, that's a great question. In terms of you know, driving and the like, I'm going to say like 6 or 7, maybe.
Oh, well, can I take a guess?
Go for it.
50.
I feel like 50 is probably, well, 50 includes probably iRacing Petit Le Mans, the BMW M Sim Cup that we had here. But Greg, to put this into context, the average driver probably puts around 20 to 40 hours per World Championship Series race.
Yeah.
The highest that we've ever seen and publicly posted on social media, I think 75 hours for a single race.
75 hours.
Yeah.
Oh, just laps. We're not talking data and setup work. Yes, just laps.
Just lapping. 75. Yeah, that is an immense commitment.
Yeah,
no
more than 10 minutes and I get bored.
That's incredible. That is incredible. And, I wanted, to get to this, one of the reasons that I love this place so much, and we talked about this track, and, I love the Glen, I love Sebring, I certainly love Daytona, but at those tracks, do you ever really see a GTP car in traffic lose 2+ seconds a lap? No, because they can time it, they can, give that little pause, get through. There's a lot more long opportunities. This track changes direction so much when you get hung up, and we're seeing that. One lap, we'll see Pinto going a 106.5 like he just did. 2 laps ago, he was at a 108.9.
And so as we watch Josh Ladd continue just to put that pressure on, I'm looking at plenty of questions in the YouTube chat. Elvis Rankin wants to know who's the better commentator, Arjuna or Lewis. Unfortunately, Lewis's 2 Simi Awards, I only have 1, so mathematically, quantifiably, you are legitimately the better commentator amongst the 2 of us. But as we work our way into the end of this first 40 minutes of racing, it's as Diogo Pinto continues just to build that advantage at the front. Alejandro Sanchez builds that gap at the front. Lewis, didn't I say in a press release that went out that it wasn't going to be so predictable this season?
You did, but again, we're still early doors in this race. By the way, thank you, Elvis, for just dropping that one in the chat. 35 minutes into the race, still got 2 hours and 5 left to go. There is still so much time. There's a look at Josh Ladd. We saw him racing a bit earlier on. I've commentated quite a bit on Josh Ladd in the recent past. He looks calm, he looks relaxed. When he gets into the action, sometimes he still looks calm, but he doesn't race like he's as calm as. It's obviously the battle for second position. There's still quite a fight happening behind in that sort of 5th, 6th, sort of 7th area. I did note that Dom Hoffman is right on the rear end of Owen Carroll, and they both caught quite closely to the back of Charlie Collins as well. So I think there might be a couple of fights coming for the back of the top 5.
And we are at this point now of the race, as Danny Chivichabo does say who would get the Apex contract first. Well, I have an Apex Racing t-shirt, Lewis doesn't. But Greg, traffic is now present every single lap. There's no laps where you'll have a really bad lap and then you'll get 3 laps where you're in clean air. No, now you're every lap having to deal with a GTD or a GTP machine.
Exactly, and I think you bring up a really good point that people don't sometimes think about. The GTD guys, they can get held up because they're going to try and work with that GTP car, and sometimes they're not going to let that GTP car get through because they want to get some sort of an advantage. If the GTP car forces the issue, like right here, one of those cars has to check up. In that case, it was the red line Ferrari, and it's going to lose a little bit of speed relative to that Mercedes. So traffic working by you can create time loss for you.
And that was the race clutch number 15, which is 13 laps down and just trying to salvage some points right now. They've got to make sure they stay out of trouble and don't get into the race control notebook just yet, which is now up to 30 incidents or so. And we're not even to the 2-hour mark left in this race. I'm still amazed, though. Diogo Pinto, that pace that we're seeing out front. But, Greg, whether it's real or virtual racing, you've got 2 drivers in the car. And even at the elite level of motorsport, no matter what level of sports you're at, there is never going to be 2 drivers or 2 competitors that are identical in times. There's always going to likely be one that's quicker than the other.
Well, that's true, but at this level, those differences are down to maybe tenths of a second or even less. That makes a big difference over the length of a stint, obviously. And so you've got to be mindful of that. And, some drivers, they may like traffic a little bit better. Others, they may like just clear track, wanting to play those games. And so you sort of game it out. Who's going to, who's the guy who's better at a start on colder tires? Who's going to be strong at the end of his stint, at the end of the race in particular, on used tires but lighter fuel? You need to always be up on that. That's part of what those, 75 hours of practice are going to provide that level of data.
And just to be clear, only the crazy people do 75 hours of practice every single week. I think Brian Lockwood would admit it was pretty crazy when he admitted it as well. Here's a look over the shoulder, though, at Sam Coiter in the Mercedes-AMG Urano car. Down the hill into the turn 5 complex on the entry through the S's they'll go. Watch A, the prototypes coming through and how close they get, but also B, just how wide all of the GT machines get to the outside and really maximizing the limit of the track. Of course, Sam, someone that we saw winning in the BMW M-Sim Cup slightly earlier, Lewis. He's not got to just switch tracks. We go from Zandvoort over here to the Michelin Raceway Road Atlanta, but he switches from the BMW into this Mercedes.
Yeah, and he had an absolutely unreal starting stint to that race, pulling away from 2 Team Redline cars. I think he pulled out, what was it 8 seconds before they came into the pit lane. It was an absolutely unbelievable stint. Not unfortunately, unfortunately not for him, rather, quite having the same stint here, but still, you know, starting to feel that pressure. We also talked a little bit in the GTD category. Whilst we saw Alex Dunn feeling the pressure literally from the entire GTD field inside that top 10, he has started to light up the timesheets as he's pulled away from Gianni Vecchio now. There's a 2-second gap between the pair of those. He's now got 4.6 to his teammate right ahead of him. So Alejandro Sanchez might start being reeled in a little bit, but I think we've got something slightly more important to talk about, because in the next, 5, 10, 15, 20 minutes, we'll be talking an awful lot of pit stops. You know, it's basically open now. It depends how you want to run this race.
I think 6 laps from now is when we'll see the pit stop window open. It's about 42 laps for the entirety of the GTP cars. They have the same fuel capacity. It's all just how you use the tank over the course of the stint. I did allude to it earlier. I was having dinner with Zach Campbell earlier in the week, flying back from Atlanta, and he was mentioning the possibility, the very slight possibility, that they were going to try such a heavy fuel save that, Greg, they're going to try and cut out a pit stop from this race. Now, it may not seem like a lot, but when you're saving 6 or 7 laps per stint here, that's a very slow Mercedes in towards the chicane, now I got very distracted by that.
Well, and understandably, that was in a very sketchy area with a huge group of GTP cars coming through. And you know, he did what he should have done. He was off pace, but just drove the line, let them figure a way to get around you. That looks like everybody made it through.
Yeah.
It was Alessandro Bico, wasn't it? I was just looking through the timing screen, and he is about 12 laps down from his class, so another one with endurance racing spirit. Again, these drivers just want to accrue points. I was looking through the form book last year, Lewis, and outside of the obvious, the Apex and the Sim RC and the GTD and the touring car classes that, of course, ran away with the championships, it was quite rare to see teams consistently staying in the top 10.
Yeah, no, it's going to be brutal, this championship. For one, the strength of the field, and for two, just drama happening. Drama happened before even the real race starts. So Williams there, Alessandro Bico trying to get out of the way, which is great to see Williams going laps down without getting involved with others and causing some issues like earlier on in the year. But alas, they're having a much cleaner one in this one, just a few laps down. As we ride on board with Sam Michaels, of course, CrowdStrike Racing. This is all in that battle for about 6th position, because you've got Urano ahead, and you've also got that Exet Racing car of Owen Carroll, who's just pulled a little bit clear once they've navigated the back markers there, I think, of the Apex Racing team.
It does seem as though when it comes to GTP BOP, those 3 words that's going to send utter terror through ATFR Lab, the people that make this BOP for us in conjunction with the drivers and the data they present, but I'm sure some of the competitors as well. BMW, Cadillac, 2 BMWs, and then a Porsche. The first of the Acuras back in 8th position. It's not to say that I think any one car is particularly strong here, Greg. It does just seem as though certain teams, especially in the BMW, because it's been in the service for so long, as the Wave Italy car becomes the first to come down for pit lane, the BMW's had a full year of development in the sim world. The drivers and teams know how to make the most of it as the 18 misses its box.
Oh, just an overshoot there, and that's huge in terms of time. And, you know, kind of getting back to what you were talking about as well, Arjuna, you know, with having that extra data, the BMW is clearly working very well. But talking about that fuel save, you think about the amount of time you spend not just sitting in the pits doing a stop, but the pit delta, in and out. If you can save more than that and not lose a huge amount of time in just in terms of pace by doing a fuel save, little lift and coast and the like, at the end of the race, you can be there in really good shape.
as the Nitro Circus Sim Racing's car, the Invitational Wildcard, joining us for round one, makes its way to pit lane. It's Flynn Lazier, the son of Buddy Lazier, not just on the road to Indy, someone that has raced some real cars, but someone that we've seen plenty in sim racing, makes his way down to the pit lane. This is Alessandro Bico, that car that we mentioned was a couple of laps down. They are serving a drive-through penalty, and so they roll their way down on in. And this is only the 13th of the incidents that has been reviewed so far by Race Control. There's still plenty to work their way on through. Gap towards the front though, Lewis. Look at the top three. Look at the Apex Racing team. Almost 20 seconds off the BMW M Team red line.
Yeah, sorry, I've just seen that the investigation count, we're up to 30 already, which is not great, although it is expected around here. You know, obviously drivers are going to get involved. Most of these will go down as NFAs, you know, no further action, racing incidents, whatever. It's only the fair few that actually come out as being penalties, because drivers love to complain, and they love to report basically everything. Oh no, he got in my way. Yeah, that's traffic. That's how it works. So yeah, there's a couple of frustrations in that, but just want to touch back on the BOP discussion, or rather how things work in both these categories, whether it is BOP or whatnot. Don't judge too much about the gaps at the moment. We are a long way away from the checker flag, and a lot of drivers and teams could be running certain strategies. And if there's one thing that we've learned, you know, even just doing the BMW M Cup, is even in that where it's a one-make championship in the GTB class. The strategy's wide open. You can like look at it and think, well, yeah, no, this is actually a sold BMW M Team red line win. And then suddenly you look back in 20 minutes time and think, how are they 10 seconds behind everyone? Well, they've just got the strategy wrong, and that's what causes some of the problems.
And to clarify as well, we are building a BOP specific for the top level drivers, and the way they build the cars and setups, the way they drive them over the bumps, as well as the XZ Cadillac, the number 95 with Owen Carroll, comes down to pit lane. Not sure if they're going to do their driver change, but the minimum drive time not quite complete. So I think Owen Carroll going to stay in there for one more stint. Hypothetically though, drivers can complete 45 minutes and get out of that car and hand it over to their teammate. But yeah, iRacing's regular BOP is great when Lewis, Greg and myself may go racing, but these drivers, I mean, Greg, you know it, race drivers, I was listening to some stories that Brian Till and Kent Stacey were talking to one another. They always find inventive ways to go faster.
Well, race drivers, let's be very honest here, are greedy. They're greedy by nature. They want more. They always want more. And if that comes from, as Lewis was talking about, complaining about somebody who slowed them down, or if it's coming up with creative ways, find more speed, they're going to do it. And you know, that's where it has to be tempered a little bit though, with that patience thing we're talking about, because just going with raw pace, oh look at this, multi-class racing at its best, down through one of the most frightening turns in all of motorsports, that fall away turn 12. Everybody doing a fabulous job there as the 99 down into the pits.
And they fall away into pit lane, and this is crucial, I think, saw the traffic and said, get me out of it. So it's the Apex Racing team, Obsidian Racing, the BMW M Team BS Plus competition, as well as Pearson's in the number 16 that all trundle down to the lane, hit their marks, and for the first time this season, up on the jacks. Fresh set of Michelin tires going in and a full tank of fuel to boot as well. Here's the Delta Sport Lamborghini, still under pressure from behind, but that is the Mercedes AMG Williams Esports car that is laps down, not a battle for position. Also joining the fun on pit lane though, it's the private label Team Hype car and Adam Blocker into the box.
Yeah, I'm sure Tommy Milner will be obviously watching on, keeping an eye as to what's happening. The team he co-owns, as well as the race leader, into the pit. Now, I was going to ask this question as to how long they were going to stay out on the racetrack. I think the big question for us now is how long do VRS Coanda stay out on the racetrack if they've been saving fuel? You can see the top three are in, so you've got Alton Esports behind, as well as Williams into the pit lane. But see, out on the racetrack, are we going to see Porsche Coanda into the lead?
I saw orange and purple for a second, and indeed the 91's gone to the top. So though have Urano Esports, and we were kind of talking about this earlier. Dominic Hoffman's made a bit of a name for himself over the last year or so in being able to stay out and save a ridiculous amount of fuel, just being completely honest. And so now we'll have to wait and see how things play out. I was keeping an eye on this. VRS Coanda was coming out just alongside the BMW M Team BS Plus competition car. Nicholas Boy straight out of pit lane, and Greg now with a damaged rear end on the BMW M Hybrid V8.
Yeah, wing knocked completely off the back of that car. Just huge contact down into the turn 10, 10A area. And it's going to be a long stop in the pits for them.
And straight back on the flatbed, so Nicholas Boy takes the toe, and so that is BMW M Team BS competition done. Strike one off the mark for BMW Motorsports as they'll watch in towards the chicane. That is Dominic Hoffman getting past Charlie Collins. The glare off the white car, slightly new for us in the broadcast booth, but it's Dominic Hoffman that we know will now dive down to pit lane. And this is where a Porsche that Lewis during the iRacing Petit Le Mans was almost hampered on fuel is now starting to make its name.
Yeah, but sometimes, you know, when you're faced against adversity, you've got to dig deep. I'm assuming Michael Romanidis is probably going to go as the same sort of length, of course, jumping in here into the Vayan Chanjuven. So a bit of a switch there within the VRS Coanda camp. Although I think he might have actually. No, there he goes. He does go up into second place. So it's at the moment a VRS Coanda 1-2. But we'll take a look at a replay as to what actually happened to Nicholas Boy once again, and we can really piece this one together. Straight out of pit lane, coming up towards turn 2 and 3. Like you say, you've got the XSET car, you've got VRS Coanda coming through in all of this, and just sort of in the middle of all of it. And the XSET car was actually for position and cold tires. Bit of a wiggle. He's still trying to build up the temperature into the Michelins, and there's a clip from behind. It was Apex, you're right. It was Peter Berryman in that number 99. So A-Race Control's going to take a look at this, Greg, but now is there damage on the front of the BMW for the Apex Racing team?
Well, that's what I talked about earlier, is if you have damage on the front of the car, it upsets the handling. It can root through the front tires a lot more. It can really distract your race. You've got to be a little bit patient, avoid contact. And obviously that was the exit of 5, not down into turn 10. And he was doing everything he could to stay out of the way, just couldn't quite pull it off.
And so we've got two cars now on a distinctly different fuel strategy. But Greg, I'll come back to you for a second here, because the VRS Coanda number 91, the VRS Coanda number 92, they're both split by 20 seconds. That's a bigger difference than you'd think at this point in the race. And so for Romanidis and Zach Campbell in that second car, they're already on the back foot when it comes to the strategy call.
Yeah, truly, and obviously traffic has not been very good to them, and trying to stay out and do that fuel save. But you've still got to do that without losing so much time that having that pit stop missed is not going to make up for it, and they may be in trouble here.
Down into the 10A, 10B complex. Lewis is wanting to talk about corner numbers when I bring that up, but as we head back towards the line is to close lap 44. And this is as well with a full formation lap, Lewis. It's something that not many people will talk about as being a factor, but you're going around the entirety of this Michelin Raceway Road Atlanta with its undulation, with its elevation. As much fuel as you can save on that formation lap while trying to heat up the tires, that comes into play right here as Charlie Collins, the Welshman, continues to work.
Yeah, obviously, you know, you can say that you don't burn that much fuel on the formation lap, but still, once you get around, you cost yourself in a little bit. But we're taking a look on the Michelin onboard with Charlie Collins. The car ahead, that is the XSET car. That was a bit of a late move into 7. That's the XSET car that's directly ahead. That is not, obviously, for position, and I believe it's still Owen Carroll behind the wheel. And this could get a little bit frustrating for Charlie Collins, thinking, look, this car's not for position, but he's still holding me up. Yes, there's blue flags out and all that kind of stuff. It doesn't really matter. You know, everyone's in their own race right now.
And I was just looking through the driver list. The only change for drivers in that first cycle of pit stop, I think, was Adam Blocker out and Phil Kraus in. And crucially, it came after the 45-minute mark. So the private label team Hype should have their minimum drive time already fulfilled for Adam Blocker, who is going to be working with Augustin Canapino in the Hunkus Hollinger Racing crew for 2024 as Coanda continues to look to try and work on forward. Here's a look, and the beauty of sim racing, we can place these cameras wherever we want on the car, Greg, as we see Peter Berryman's perspective down into the S's.
You saw that big wiggle, and that lost him that little bit of momentum, and just a misjudge. And we've got one of our top GTD cars has gone around.
That's Phil Denez.
Bias alarm.
My bias alarm goes off, but it's also the car that grabbed third in the championship in 2022, and it comes as Sven Haasers brought the Grid and Go virtual coach.gg102 down to the pit lane as well. Let's go back to the replay and see if 2 and 2 go together. And indeed they are. It's Ferrari, it's BMW, down into the chicane, and Lewis, it's a look to the inside from B.S. Turner.
Yeah, let's see what happened with Sven Haase. I mean, the contact there on the apex, at least from my view, from that angle, it did seem as though Sven Haase gave a little bit of room as our race leader comes down onto the lane. So 91 and 92 will surely follow in about 20 seconds time. But for me there from Sven Haase, I think, at least from that angle, I think he did give some room.
We'll have to wait and see if what race control deems on that one, as pit stops underway now for the final 1 and 2 of your GTP machines. But as we cycle back over to the GTDs, it's broken up slightly. It's still, yes, Alejandro Sanchez for the Mercedes-AMG Apex Racing team that leads from the 199 Apex Racing team. But further back as Gianni Vecchio runs in third. Luca Kita in the Mercedes-AMG Urano car under fire from Josh Thompson. And Greg, Lewis had slightly mentioned this earlier. Josh Thompson yesterday evening just missed out on an automatic eligibility spot for the 2024 Porsche Esports Super Cup. He missed out on tiebreaker as well. It was tied on points. It had to go back to the average finish in the main races. How do you put that heartbreak aside and jump back into the car to go again the very next day?
Oh, huge moment. That's what we talked about. That was Luca Kita, I think, off.
And I crucially think that was BMW M Team Redline and Lewis. All the teams were given a specific set of instructions from race control as to what was acceptable down in towards the S's. I get the sneaking suspicion that is not. And now race control may be taking a look at the Portuguese driver out front.
Yeah, you got to say, when you got a 6.4 second lead, you can really afford in those occasions to maybe take a little bit more pace off going through traffic and not run it so hot. But then again, why have you got a 6.4 second lead? Yeah, it's because you've been taking some of those risks in traffic. So that's what happens sometimes. We'll take a look on the replay as well. So we're riding on board with the BMW M Team Redline car. You can kind of see, picks off his teammate coming down the hill, sees Luca Kita. Nah, that gap was closing. No way, that was not on.
And like I said, they have to turn eventually, or they can't get down to that apex, and they're off anyway. So you've got to give them that little bit of space. And Arjuna, to answer your question about how do you put that behind you, Brian Till actually asked that question of Randy Popes many years ago in a World Challenge race after he'd been wrecked out of a first race and had to come back, and his answer was ADD. Which absolutely stopped Brian in his tracks for a while. But the other option is just take it out on your competitors in that next race, right? Just focus that frustration and red mist and get after it.
It explains a little bit about Randy Popes as well, having had the pleasure of meeting him as well. So yes, that explains a lot. But as we focus in on...
If you've met Randy, you know that's a great answer.
Randy's fantastic as well. It's crazy to think at the age of 40, Porsche factory driver, and had to go up against those young whippersnappers over in Germany. But as we watch Daniel Kraft in that Pure Sims number 16, it's, again, all as while Diogo Pinto, to go back to that, Greg mentioned the key word there. The GTD must turn in at some point to turn 4. The instruction given by race control to the drivers of the pre-event briefing was the turn-in point is the moment at which you must have some overlap. I think Diogo Pinto slightly misjudged it, but Lewis, it's so easy to do because of the discrepancy in speed between these two cars. It's 11 seconds or so a lap difference between the two machines.
The traffic was always going to be the main talking point of this championship. It always will be, and it will be for the next 3 rounds. If you don't like it, well, learn to like it, because we're going to have to talk about it a lot, and we don't want you to go. It's going to be a great season of racing, but we're going to see a lot of that kind of stuff. A look down the hill, it was a little bit late, and like you say, as we always say, if you want to treat it as the most commonsensical way, whether it overlaps or whatever, it is the responsibility of the higher class 2 lap cleaner. It's in their hands as to when they go down the inside and how they do it. It is their responsibility to do it cleanly, not on the shoulders of the GTD, and in that occasion, it certainly screams it.
And so, with almost the first hour in the books, let's take a look at some of the highlights from what's been a hectic start to the 2023 IMSA Esports Michelin Global Championship. And drama before, well, some cars even got to the stripe. It was Satellite Racing initially that got involved, and then, well, as Race Clutch and then CrowdStrike Racing came together, it just continued all as the GTP stripped over one another. And that not isolated just to the faster class. The GTDs would file their way into the opening corner, and while Apex would run 1 and 2 Mercedes in front of BMW, up the hill into turn number 3, not every one of those machines got through safely. Eduardo Leo put it on pole position for Altus Esports, but then Diogo Pinto, the 2022 Porsche Esports Super Cup champion, was able to get on through and has built up a commanding lead up towards the front, but it was all as well. Battles through the field. Marla getting passed by the Drago Racing Ferrari. The red line Ferrari getting interrupted in its fight with the virtual coach GG by Grid and Go team name. That's way too long for a commentator to truly have to remember, but it all again just happened as not too much aggressive fighting through the field. CrowdStrike letting past the Urano Esports car that was slowly carving its way on forward. That was the moment that Peter Berryman forgot, unfortunately, to slightly release the pressure down into turn 5. Nicholas Boy got tagged as we rode our way into that very bumpy braking zone. And other than that, it's been a relatively quiet opening hour of the action. Arjuna Kankipati alongside with Lewis McLean and Greg Creamer for this first race of 4. And Greg, $25,000 on the line. The best drivers in the world of sim racing. And look at the fighting down the hill to the line with 1 hour complete.
And some of the GTD cars now starting into their pit window, a number of them making their way down into pit lane here, obviously able to run a little bit longer.
So it is the first opportunity to potentially get a second driver into your GTD machine. Your race leader came on in, but I did see that Josh Thompson in that 171 went a little bit longer. Lewis, of course, was running a little bit further back in line, saving the fuel, now making advantage with that.
Yeah, I mean, look, the thing is with these cars is that generally in the GTD category, they're not really going to struggle to get to the hour mark. Not really, you know, they can get there with relative ease. It's about going longer than that's the kind of problem. And obviously, we're not even an hour into the race. So for those stopping now, it's not like unexpected, and I don't think it's any major red flags if anyone's going much longer at this point. It's just people playing strategies in slightly different ways, because again, as we've said before, the 2 hours 40-minute race time, whilst in the GTP category I think it's less awkward, because you know they're talking roughly 45-40-minute stints. You know, it's not too bad. The GTDs, generally speaking, it's an hour longer stint, which means that you're going 20 minutes longer, 20 minutes shorter in a race distance than you normally would be prepared for. It can fall a little awkwardly, which means you have to think outside of the box strategically, which is the entire point of a 2 hour 40-minute race stint.
And that's why often those real races become so intriguing, especially, Greg, when you add in the safety cars that interrupt things.
Well, exactly, and when you have one of those long, yellow flags, and you can get in, get all your pit work done, make quick repairs on the cars, it really can change the dynamic. Just a pure sprint like this really changes things up a bit. Boy, did he hit the mark there absolutely perfectly for that stop. One thing, keep an eye on, guys. I was watching Charlie Collins before he made that stop, and he stayed behind the exit car of Owen Carroll for a lot longer than he had to. I think he was continuing to play that fuel save. He went 47 laps, guys, in that car. I think he's opened up a lot of opportunity later on in this one.
And we'll have to see the beauty of sim racing, and whether it's real or virtual with endurance racing, you find those strategies converging at the end. Let's take a look at a moment with the Nitro Circus sim racing machine. Of course, I'm sure Travis Pastrana will be hoping for some action with his drivers, but we'll see if this is the type of action that he wants. It's rising up to turn number 3 on the inside of the Altus Lamborghini and just slightly rolling off the brakes up into the braking zone, and the Lamborghini goes around, as does the Acura, Lewis.
Yeah, that was just again a bit messy there. Unfortunately, turned that one into a bit of a Nitro Circus at the top of the hill, but tish and all that. But yes, a bit of a shame there, but it's so easily done. You know, turn 2, turn 3, you got that blind crest as you come over. See how much damage is on the front of that Williams car. That wasn't there when we saw it earlier. Is that still the one of Alessandro Bico?
No, that's now Daniel Pastor, isn't it? The second Williams Esports car that's now also been involved in the war. Yeah. So that is not a great start for either the 153 or the 155 officially entered customer teams for the Mercedes AMG crew. Especially noticeable given that, what was it, Williams Esports is 55 as it was last year, 5th in the championship, and the other car was also in the top 10. So, Greg, it's only a 4-round championship. You can't really lose out, especially with the point system in IMSA, which carries over to IMSA Esports. Qualifying in the race paid out for drivers.
Yeah, absolutely. 350 points to win, 35 for pole, and these championships can be decided by single digits, and so you struggle, especially in the very first race. You're on your back foot for the entire season, and eventually you're going to need help from some of your competitors having issues of their own. If they don't, you're really in trouble.
And that's big damage on the front of that Mercedes.
Yeah, it is.
The spare parts department going to get an order for a new front end. I'm sure the budget department will like that. It just continues to heat up though in the battle for 5th, and I'll keep you just up to date on GTD gaps as well, because I saw Florian Lebigra, who last year competed in the touring car class with Romain Grosjean Esports team. Well, he's now part of Team Redline. He's taken over from Gianni Vecchio in the, from Josh Thompson in the 171. Gianni Vecchio's handed over to Ollie Steinbratton, I believe, in the 170. But here, Lewis, it's a conga line of GTPs, and well, with not much GTD traffic to deal with right now.
Yeah, and I've got a question for you, Arjun, because I can't fully see it on my list here. Is Pete Berryman under investigation for the contact between himself and BS Competition? Because I'm like, for me, that would be a slam dunk pen. For sure, and we'd see Pete Berryman come into pillar, and that is under investigation.
The problem is that's incident number 32.
Oh yeah, and we're a long way back from that.
We're up, yeah, we are getting up there. Now, I will just point out as well, a rash of track limit violations have just been handed out to the drivers. Now, iRacing, of course, has its own incident tracking system with its incident points. I mean, that was a nervy moment as they did go 2x2 down through the S's. I got scared there. But beyond that, we have an additional track limit system which comes into play for consistent and repeated abuses of, in particular, turn 3 in the opening sector and turn 10 at the chicane. You get 2 penalty warnings, or rather 2 warnings before a penalty will be given out, much like, Greg, you would get in the real world.
Exactly, and we get a little bit of a change up here as I think that's for 2nd and 3rd, isn't it? Yeah, that's the number 90 of Dominic Hoffman making that move, slipping around on Eduardo Leo. He's really struggling, isn't he?
And so it's the balance of the Cadillac that seems to now be holding him down. It's now BMW 1, 2, and 3. So maybe, Lewis, I know you did say don't judge the BOP necessarily until we get to the end of the race when things get maybe a little bit more obvious with the strategy. But Cadillac and Eduardo Leo fast in 1 lap, slowing down after an hour and a bit.
Yeah, I mean, to be fair, I've got to say for the Beamers, like, again, we're too early in the race to judge. So who knows?
We're not even halfway through this opening round of the 2023 IMSA Esports Michelin Global Championship. Don't go anywhere though on IMSA TV on the iRacing Esports Network. The run to the checkered flag is coming up.
All the hype is leading to this. Porsche, BMW, Acura, Cadillac in the reborn GTP category. It's a new era, a new breed of sports car racing. Electrified speed, electrified drama. Win the weekend. Presented by Michelin. Watch episodes now on YouTube.
Welcome to one of the greatest spectacles in motorsport.
All these cars look amazing. Are you ready? America's best sports car drivers and the best from around the world. Let's go and get this 24-hour classic started.
Green flag, green flag.
That was awesome.
Sebring International Raceway, the birthplace of American endurance racing.
Hashtag respect the bumps.
Putting it all on the line. Sebring is such a big race. You want it on your resume. 100-minute sprint that is the Acura Grand Prix of Long Beach. There is always a dramatic end to this race.
I love IMSA racing. I love colonies. Welcome to the Monterey Peninsula in California. The 11 corners of WeatherTech Raceway, Laguna Seca.
This is the Motor City. It's one of the most important, prestigious races in the WeatherTech Championship. It's going to be a good old-fashioned street fight here in Detroit. One of the classic race courses in the world.
11 corners, 3.4 miles, 6 hours on the clock. Starts right now.
North of the border in Canada.
Wild action. We talk about this racetrack, total commitment.
High cornering speeds, Cal, high closing speeds. The drivers will tell you it makes you kind of hold your breath.
Road racing is at the very heart of this area of Wisconsin.
It's a driver and fan favorite. What a day we have had in Road America.
Virginia International Raceway.
The fight continues at a track the late Paul Newman called Heaven on Earth.
It is the Michelin GT Challenge.
Any event at Indy is going to be a big one. So special.
Fantastic stuff.
Motul Petit Le Mans. It is a colossal scene on the front straight. It's championship day.
What an awesome finish.
Welcome back to the 2023 IMSA Esports Michelin Global Championship as we kick things off from the Michelin Raceway Road Atlanta. This series and this coverage is brought to you by Michelin, the official tire of IMSA. Looking for a performance upgrade? If superior all-season performance that stands out from the crowd is your goal, the Michelin Pilot Sport All-Season 4 can take you to the next level. Visit your local tire dealer for details on these new Michelin products. And by IMSA Esports, a company within the NASCAR family and the sanctioning body of the IMSA WeatherTech Sports Car Championship, the premier sports car racing series in North America. For more information on the series, schedules, and to purchase your tickets for the next event, visit IMSA.com today. It's our junior Kanki party alongside with Lewis McLeod and Greg Creamer as we work your way towards the halfway mark of this first round of 2023. Lewis, what an action-packed opening hour it has been. We're still waiting for race control to let us know what they think about plenty of those incidents that have been wrapped on up, but it is still BMW M Team Redline and the Mercedes AMG Team ART that lead in their classes.
Yeah, we've been busy here in the comms booth, they've been busy in the production booth behind the scenes, and they've been busy in race control, potentially busier than all of us, trying to piece things together and get on top of some of the incidents from the early stages of this race. Started out with an awful lot of drama, continues with an awful lot of drama as well. This a little bit further down the order. This is the CrowdStrike car at the moment, running just ahead, of course, of I can't remember who that is. I think it might be the Exec car that's directly behind them. Either way, they're under a lot of pressure, or rather, it's CrowdStrike delivering it to Obsidian. So a couple of tight fights in there, as well as Pearson's trying to work their way through. Traffic's been the big talking point, our junior. It continues to be.
And Greg, I know you've called your fair share of American endurance races in the real world. You've done your fair share of sim racing as well. What's the combination, what's the hybrid been like of the two of them so far?
Well, I'll tell you what, I'm enjoying this immensely. Obviously these are tracks that I've done a lot of announcing at in person, and being able to see this level of sim competition with this level of talent. And let's just not forget, we're not just talking about the drivers, we're talking about the teams that are around them that are working on these setups and getting these cars to perform like this, working through that BOP and seeing it executed at this level. And what's really impressive to me, Arjuna, is the fact that this truly models what we see in real-world competition. The Petit Le Mans, the intensity of the traffic there, we're seeing that play out right here. That's spectacular. And to give you a little bit of perspective, when you think about, when you talk to somebody about their strategy for the Petit Le Mans, they say, just stay on the same lap within a half a second or a half a minute or so for the first 8 to 8.5 hours. For that last 1.5 to 2 hours, that's when you go racing. Well, we're at an hour and a half left to go in this race. You think about what has happened in those last few Petit Le Mans in that last hour and a half, and compared to what we've seen already, this is going to get insane, guys.
But Lewis, this is where the removal of safety cars from last year kind of makes this, right, a 2 hour and 40-minute sprint. And so for Exet, yes, they're running in 5th, but you're 40 seconds back from BMW M Team Redline. And yes, I know Diogo Pinto is under investigation. He was a naughty boy in traffic, but let's say for whatever reason, there was no penalty, there was no investigation in the first place. 40 seconds in 90 minutes of racing against Diogo Pinto, the 2022 Porsche Esports Super Cup champion. I mean, where are you going to find that, Lewis? Who are you paying?
Well, you could make a donation into Diogo Pinto's PayPal account, but I think on this occasion, no, you take the top honours and think about what's best for a team that's been newly minted with the obviously the Red Bull backing properly as of recent times. We discussed that a little bit earlier on. I'm sure we will do a little bit later on. But BMW Team Redline, they're in a really strong position at the moment. Yes, that could all falter very quickly, but it's only 5 seconds behind is Williams. So yes, there are those teams further down the order that almost kind of out of it. They need a bit of luck. They need their tables to turn. But that is racing. That's what they've come to know. To be fair, you know me. I love the safety cars from last season. I understand why we don't have them, but I'm also like, oh, I would love a good safety car every now and then.
I just go back to Laguna Seca and I think, you know what? It wasn't actually that bad, was it? It just felt like a real IMSA safety car period. It's just that we were not used to it in the sim, and so suddenly burning 10 minutes off the clock, 15 minutes off the clock felt a little unnatural. Eagle-eyed viewers of the race control decision board will have noticed that there's another penalty that's being laid on down, and this one's come the way of a top runner, and it's one of the BS competition BMWs in the GTD class. where the Marla Racing team, currently with Felix Kronbach behind the wheel, is going to get I believe a drive-through penalty for contact that ended up taking out the Team 75 Bernard by SimRC machine. So that's the 17th incident that's actually resulted in a review. We'll see what more race control has to see. Lewis mentioned we have Alex Dunn in the field, but if you're watching our live timing, available at livetiming.iracing.com, you'll notice there are some other real-world drivers in the field as well. Also some real-world teams. We watched Brabham, Delta Sport, and Maniti. But Greg, I'm looking at the fact that the number 91, after its long pit stop window in the first into the race, has put on in Porsche factory driver Lauren Heinrich into the number 91. It'll be very interesting to see how he gets on in a GTP machine.
It absolutely will, and these guys, they do so much sim training in general. They've got tremendous experience at it, and it does have absolute real-world applications. We all know that, and so this is a golden opportunity for him to get out there. And you think about, the car that he's driving, and where some of the drivers that started in the GTD category, started in Porsche Super Cup and in the Carrera Cups, are now running in these GTP cars. It is a place you want to be very adept here and get any experience you can, because you may well end up there at some point.
Yeah, and I think back to the fact that Lauren is not necessarily the true definition of the E2Real journey. He has some experience in karts and stuff before he jumped back into the sim world. But Lewis, he competed in the inaugural season of the Porsche Esports Super Cup. He was able to use his time in sim racing to propel him back into some cockpits of real cars. That got him noticed, got him into the Porsche Junior Shootout, and he made the most of every single opportunity. And the best thing about all of this, of course, Lewis, is Porsche makes these drivers compete in sim racing as well.
Yeah, I mean, look, you got to say with Lauren Heinrich, he's a fast peddler in the world of real racing as well as in here. A little bit of a look down the inside Nitro Circus sim racing, trying to work that one past. But Lauren Heinrich says, yeah, I'm actually pretty good at this sim stuff because I've been doing it for a long time. See you later, alligator. And he's able to hang on to that spot. 10th place they're currently running.
Let's turn things up, though. Let's enjoy the rumble of these GTP machines, these GTD cars rumbling around the Michelin Raceway Road Atlanta. Let's jump on board for some iRacing Full Throttle. wonderful, diverse sound of engines we have here in this 2023 IMSA Esports Michelin Global Championship. And of course, these cars all representing cars that you see racing in the IMSA WeatherTech Sports Car Championship. Don't forget iRacing.com. New memberships are 40% off. You can jump on in and get as part of the fun. This, though, is a continued battle down through traffic as GTDs continue to be a factor. Peter Berryman almost runs into the side of another Mercedes-AMG Urano car there for a second. It's up towards turn one, though, as Owen Carroll continues to frustrate that these drivers, Lewis, now sit 18 full seconds behind the 43 and 4.
Yeah, we have seen a bit of a bold move, though. Oh, there's one off the road. Who was that? One of the Acuras off the road. Crowd strikes down.
The third number. Is it the number 3 or the number 4, though? That's the question.
I think, based on where they were, I think it might have been the number 4. Actually, no, it would be the number 3. It would be the number 3. Yeah, you're absolutely right.
It is. They were already about 67 laps down, and so I think they are just trying to recover something. But it goes to show, Greg, that just like in the real world, where, you know, sponsors and teams want to make sure their sponsors get maximum visibility over the course of a weekend, here in the sim world, every single team is trying to push to get maximum points over the course of a weekend.
Well, you talked about it, a short season. You need to get every point you can. And as you mentioned, too, you know, even, you know, with the sim world, you still are looking for that visibility. There's some pretty august sponsors on the side of these cars here as we continue to watch Berryman just being really, really aggressive through traffic. And he has Daniel Kraft right behind him here in the Acura. These two guys going at it for 6th and 7th right now. And Berryman, well, we know he's had an eventful race so far.
Berryman, of course, an iRacing World Champion last year in what was then the Force Dynamics Dallara iRacing Grand Prix Series. I can get the name correct there. But he's being chased on down by, again, Pure Sims in the Acura. And the team now owned by, I say now owned, they've always been owned, but now 4-time British Touring Car Champion Ash Sutton. I'm quite curious to see how he's watching on and getting on. Pure Sim's also one of those teams that Lewis has a GTP and a GTD car. Not all the teams have those crossovers, which makes, I feel, understanding how many laps we're going to go in this race much easier. Important why? Because a GTD car in a timed limited race is always a little bit at the risk of where the leading GTP car is going to end up crossing the line.
Yeah, and also, you know, when you're in your little private practice sessions, when you've got this, you can actually practice some really difficult things in traffic if you want, because you've obviously got, you can say, right, GTDs, you're going to go side by side for a whole lap, and you know, for the GTPs, you're going to practice trying to get around them, and that, having the ability to do that in practice actually makes things a lot easier, because you can kind of like work on the trickiest scenarios and what the best way to actually navigate them, rather than kind of reacting to them as they come up in the race. You can have a game plan for how you're going to attack them, rather than just entrusting drivers to make it up on the spot, which 9 times out of 10 ain't gonna work, because drivers are greedy and they make silly mistakes.
They are always greedy. We've got an hour and 20 to go as we continue to watch Drago's 169 in front of the 192 Urano Mercedes. Nicholas Laubisch at the wheel there. You got Felix Quirnbach, who has served the drive-through penalty. He's dropped down to 10th as a result of that in that Mahler Racing liveried machine. Heading up in towards the opening corner. Once more we will go as these drivers continue to work their way on through. I'm always curious as well for these drivers that have been sitting and waiting on the sidelines, Greg. How do you just watch and wait as your teammates survive through the traffic and then hope that you're in a good position to go racing to the checkered flag?
Well, it's absolutely nerve-wracking, but at least in that scenario, you can get your head into the race. You can be following the, you know, the action, the data, listening to the calls. It's harder for the guy that gets out who's done a really good job and then has to wait while somebody else brings it home, and hopefully brings it home up onto the box, obviously. The other thing, just to point out here, it looks like Josh Ladd, he has found some speed here relative to Diogo Pinto. The last couple of laps, he's consistently been half a second to almost a second quicker, and that margin, which had been up to about 4 seconds, is now down to just a tick over 2. So Josh Ladd in that Williams Esports number 11 is coming.
and I'm still waiting to see the results of the incident investigation against the BMW M Team Redline car after running a GTD wide. And it's not the only thing that currently involves them now. There's actually 3 different investigations that have been lodged against Diogo Pinto, so that is just something to keep in mind. Matt Farrow is going to be taking over from Josh Ladd, though, in the next couple of minutes, so keep that in mind. Again, it's a 45-minute minimum driver time that these teams have to keep in mind. It's not really changed from last year, Lewis, so hopefully there's no drive time violations come the end of this.
No, indeed. So fingers crossed we'll be all set on that one. I always think it's a bit embarrassing when we see some of the top drivers in sim racing come a cropper to the drive time, but nevertheless, it sometimes happens. As we take the Michelin on board with Felix Quirnbach. Now this is 10th position at the moment. Obviously in the Marla car, you've got Mercedes AMG Esports Urano, the 192, and we've got Drago Racing ahead of this. I did message Felix Van Delft, of course, one of the people that's kind of running strategy and stuff with BS competition, Marla Racing, who we're on board with in this one, being a part of that. And I said, "You going to win today?" And he said, "Yes." And then he messaged me about 10 minutes ago saying, "Perhaps not." So I think there's been a slight change in things behind the scenes. And of course, Marla in this, they're run by BS Competition. Not Williams. Very confusing, because we did commentate on the race a few hours ago where Marla was run by Williams. Very confusing. Yeah, the love triangle never ceases to be not confusing. It is funny, by the way, Lewis, you, me, Felix, we were all together in the Middle East in the summer. A couple of weeks after that, Felix was out here in the Bay Area where I am, meeting up with Phil Denez, along with Ryan Barneveld and Felix Quirnbach, as well as, the Apex Racing team almost bully the 192 off the track, and the Obsidian Porsche will slide it down the inside as well. But fortunately, we've all survived, all just at the expense of about a half a second or so, and now Drago Racing canters away up the road just in front of them in their grey and pink Ferrari, with the pink wheels as well, Lewis. Just wanted to call brief attention to that. Let's look forward, though, not here in the 2023 IMSA Esports Michelin Global Championship, but Greg, to the future of iRacing in 2024, because it was recently teased that the rain is getting closer and closer, the system called Tempest, that we continue to learn more information about. But it's going to mean for an even wilder set of races once we get fully dynamic weather in the tire compounds for these teams and drivers to explore.
Absolutely, and I mean, iRacing did a great job. On the way in for, we think, a drive-through and a big spin by the 64, I think that was Alex Gal. That was what caused his drive-through. So lost it coming into the pits, guys. Boy, that's a tough one to swallow for sure. But, one of the things that I really liked what happened this year was when iRacing improved the modeling on when you run wide onto the grass. And there was one moment when they first released it, it looked like the grass was a little bit too sticky, and they've since got it absolutely spot on. And that adds such a great dynamic to the racing, because you don't want to be able to run onto the grass and just be able to drive away. And the 71 is in.
And I think this is going to be Diogo Pinto out, and as I have been asked to call him by his Redline teammates, Silly Lully will probably be jumping into the car. Yeah, I know, it hurt me to say that deep in my soul, Lewis, I hope you know, but with an hour and 15 minutes to go, there's not enough time for them to come in after a full stint and get the driver change done. So yes, there comes Chris Lullum, and already the Williams Esports car has taken Josh Ladd out, put Matt Farrow in. Eduardo Leo is going to go the extra lap, but Lewis, this is crucial. For BMW M Team Redline, will the undercut for Williams Esports bring Matt Farrow slightly closer to the lead?
Yeah, I'm looking at Matt Farrow now. He's just going through the chicane at 10A and 10B, and now up and over the crest and down that enormous 80-foot drop into turn 12. We can see our race leader. You can see the private label Team Hype car, Phil Kraus, into the pit lane. These are a team that have already done a driver swap. Adam Block has started that car, like you were saying, Arjuna. Plenty of battles, by the way, we're seeing between Bradman, I think it's Pulse as well on the back stretch. So a couple of switches between those groupings. See what Eduardo Leo, I think he'll be into the pit lane either this lap or next lap.
He's on to the 33rd lap, so he really actually could go at least 10 laps longer if he wanted to, but I think he will just try and make the most of the fuel tank, and I believe Eduardo Leo is... go ahead.
Oh, no, sorry, no, I was just seeing one of the incidents between the 71, obviously the team battle for the race lead. It was an NFA, but that was with the 199, not the car we're looking for.
Okay, so there's still a few incidents to come there, but I was going to say, I think Eduardo Leo is sharing that car with Oscar Mangan, someone that we know is quick, was competing in the Porsche Esports Super Cup this year. But I'll be honest, I don't think I've ever seen him in a prototype. Going to be very curious to see how he gets on in there. The margin between BMW M Team Redline and Matt Farrow after the pit stop cycle, Greg, had been about 4 seconds, but I've seen on this lap or so that Chris Lollum has been getting himself up to speed after getting in the car. It's already come down to 2 seconds and closing.
And it does take just a little bit, obviously, when you are doing these stops. We talked about it with tires, to get these GTP tires to kind of come alive. Once they do, they're magic, of course. So you've got to be a little bit tentative. So any speed you can make on the in-lap and the out-lap, especially the out-lap, is manna from heaven, really. And what Eduardo Leo's doing here, just staying out, and as you said, he's got plenty of time left in this stint. But it looked to me like he was really conserving earlier. I was watching him, he wasn't attacking corners, and I think he was really conserving fuel and tires and looking ahead to this moment when some of the people in front of him finally had to make their stops. And he is flying out there right now, right back down into the low 107s.
A light car is usually a fast car as well.
Yep.
The only problem becomes over the balance of the stint. How do you make sure that as the weight adjusts and the brake of the car changes as well, how do you make sure that you keep that all in a relatively even window? Pablo Lazar just continues to attack in that Obsidian Racing number 96 on the back of the Apex Racing team car. And this is where, Lewis, some people may not be aware of a team like Obsidian. You and I have commentated on them plenty of times as the Wave Italy car will come into pit lane, but they're on the back of Peter Berryman, on the back of the Apex Racing team. That shows how strong they can really be.
Yeah, I mean, we've said this before about, you know, it was even one of our, keys to the race, our Michelin keys to the race right at the start, which is, you know, don't underestimate anyone on this grid. It's a big grid. There might be teams that you're not you're not used to hear about. You can see it there. The third one on there. Do not underestimate your rivals. And it's the whole thing of, yeah, sure, you know, you might be Pete Berryman, you might be a world champion, you might be this, you might be that. But when you see a team like that, you just, anyone's on this grid, and everyone has earned their spot as we see the exec car into pit lane coming from Kent, my home place. Respect Owen Carroll, as we'll see. I think it's going to hand over to Casey Cowan.
I think, yes, indeed, the 2022 eNASCAR Coca-Cola iRacing Series champ will get into that car and will fly the American flag quite proudly. The only problem is, Greg, there's a checkbox that you have in iRacing, whether you want to use the correct unit or whether you want to use Imperial units. And poor Casey Cowan, who spent his entire eNASCAR career using Imperial units, has been forced by his British teammate to switch to metric units for today.
Respect.
Yeah, respect and a massive headache, I'm sure, for him, trying to do that math in a huge hurry. If he pulls it off, that's impressive.
And so you see Casey gets on in. Look at the size of the trophy behind him as well. Greg, you've seen your fair share of racing trophies. Casey won that from winning his eNASCAR crown in 2022.
That's an impressive monument. That's not a trophy. That's a monument right there. That's pretty impressive for him right there. I've been really watching and tracking what's going on here with Lauren Heinrich and that VRS Kawanda number 91. You look at everybody else around him. You know, Leo, 37 laps in this stint, 38 for Berryman, 38 for Lazar in third. For right now, Lauren Heinrich, 32. He is doing, as we saw Collins do an incredible job of save, he is doing the same thing here. And man, I'll tell you, they could have a really short, late stop with minimal fuel on fresh tires. They could be a rocket ship at the end of this one.
I still haven't quite done the commentator's math, which is to say that never trust anything that comes out of our mouth if there is if there is math associated with it. But
agreed.
Kawanda have indicated, and Zach Campbell told me that the plan is to try and cut out a pit stop. And a pit stop here, involves, Lewis, a dangerous pit entry. Satellite Racing proved it right there. It involves a lengthy trip down pit lane. We're talking, I think it's about 22 seconds in and of itself just to transit the box itself. And then, with slightly colder tires, merging up into turn 3 as cars fly past you from that opening corner. That's all to say, cutting a pit stop out here actually sounds very, very nice.
It's not the worst pit lane that I've seen in World Motorsport, and I do have a list, by the way, of terrible pit lanes. Don't get me wrong, it's not off the list, but it's it's not the worst. But like I say, if you can avoid coming to the pit lane in a race like this, it's a big deal, and that's exactly what they're trying to do. And at the moment, things are looking good for them to basically do this on a 2-stop race, whereas everyone else might have to take that third one. A couple of lockups as we come down towards turn 7. I've got actually a question for you, Greg, because this goes to our conversation from me and our junior earlier on. Do you believe in the commentator's curse?
I do.
Oh, damn it!
I have thrown the sword through way too many people during my career for me not to put at least a little bit of faith in the old announcer's curse.
Okay.
What did I tell you, Lewis? What did I tell you?
No, you can chat at you. It doesn't exist.
Greg, what happened is we had an argument during the BMW M-Sim Cup earlier, where we basically said you'd be the deciding vote, and I'm very glad that I said that.
I still don't believe it.
Yeah, you do it long enough, obviously, and even if it's just pure ridiculously odds, something's going to happen here. So. But here's the thing. Last thing about saving that pit stop. Arjuna, you make a great point about how difficult that pit entry is, and then blending coming out. I remember calling live with John Hindhaugh a race when Scott Sharp in a prototype never saw a car coming out of the pit lane. They had just an absolutely evil crash. But the other aspect of that as well is your average lap speeds here are so quick that you lose even more relative time on that trundle through pit lane than you do when you're at a track where you're lapping average speeds 100 miles an hour or so. That's a big difference. That's a huge save.
And that's actually a really good way of thinking about it as well, as the satellite racing car, seemingly with its damage repaired, not just from the start, but its spin around on pit entry, is back out on track. So as well will be the Obsidian Racing Porsche once it, I think, makes its driver change. So Pablo Lazar is going to head on in and bring the 96 in, and jumping into that car to take over should be, I'm just looking at my timing screen, Fernando Busquets. Now, if you're curious about how driver lineups are going to work over the course of the season, this is something that's quite interesting. There are 2 main drivers. They're assigned to the car. They're not allowed to leave it, basically. That doesn't mean, Lewis, they are forced to race in every single round. The teams have the ability to swap in as many substitute drivers if they want, which is why I think we're all secretly hoping that Team Redline, yes, if you're watching on the Team Redline stream, we're talking to you, puts Max Verstappen in for one of the races.
And you know what? I know he'd be well up for it, as we can see the 43-hour race leader Eduardo Leo into the pit lane. Yeah, I mean, look, Max Verstappen's a big motorsport, big sim racing fan. He loves the stuff with Team Redline, with the Red Bull Racing partnership that's growing on that side, and that's been built up and signed and sealed over the last couple of weeks. Oh well, really, the last couple of days. It's in a really solid position. I'd love to see him in it. Maybe we will, but again, who knows on that side? We've commentated on him a fair few times in the world of sim racing. Sometimes for better or worse, but we'll not talk about that too much.
Sven Haas and Max Verstappen, where have I seen that one before? Oh, let's not talk about that clip that went on social media. It is going to be, though, as the pit stop cycle continues to see those that have extended early continue now to make their way into the lane. Both Altus and the Apex Racing team are in. It's Oscar Mangan in for Eduardo Leo. It's Peter Berryman out. It's the rock and rolling, the grooving Frenchman, Maxime Briant, that's going to jump into that number 99 for the Apex Racing team. Yeah, Lewis has started bobbing his head. We already know the Cat Jam is going to be playing inside of that number 99. But this is where, for Sam Michaels in the CrowdStrike car, going a bit longer, bit of an advantage for him. And Greg, you've been keeping your eye on Lauren Heinrich in that VRS Coanda car. He's still a good 6 seconds in front right now of Chris Lullum in that BMW M Team Redline number 71.
He has, and if you go with the math that we were talking about, he's going to be able to, again, if he can get to that 46, 47, that's going to put him in incredibly good stead to be able to bring it home. I have been watching Sam Michaels, who we just now see ducking down into the pits. He had obviously done a great job of saving a little tire, because once he got to the front, he just started flying, throwing down consistent 106s, and it opened up a nice little margin as well. So into the pits now, though.
So into the pit lane, and it means that the 91 hits the front once more. the team back at Porsche and the Coanda team as well will be thrilled to see this. And we were talking about facilities earlier. I wanted to bring this up, Greg, but I got a little bit distracted by the actual action that we were watching. A lot of these teams have started building facilities, and of course Coanda run the Porsche Coanda Esports team as well in a variety of series. What they've done for some of their races is wheel a proper, like I don't know what you actually call them, the trackside engineering booth that the teams will set up. They'll wheel them into their team hub, and that's what they'll use to run strategy and all of their stuff with the information that iRacing can provide to the teams. It's incredible the level of detail that these teams go to with engineers, spotters, strategists, and even media teams behind the scenes.
Well, the more realistic you can make a sim, obviously, the more opportunity you have to continue to progress and improve. And you think about it. Let's go back over 5-6 decades, right? It was sims. It was taking sims and making them at that era with really questionable tech as realistic as possible, which allowed people to land on the moon in the first try. And you have to do that by using everything, every arrow in your quiver. And I love that, bringing out the pit carts. That is how this is done. Work through those equations, and it clearly paying off. They're having a great run today.
I did see on my timing screen that Oscar Mangan, after jumping into the Altus Esports number 43, had dropped down behind where he would expect to be. So I think there was a slight issue on track for him, and we'll see how he gets up to speed in the car. You can also see the conditions. It's getting a bit darker here, Lewis. This is where fully dynamic weather, A, over the course of the race itself, but B, to generate the session. The drivers and teams might have an idea for where the weather is going to be. They're really playing a little bit with the weather forecasts as Lauren Heinrich gets a little bit close to the outside of the Altus Lamborghini.
I think it's why everyone's so excited for rain and as such, is that the weather system we've got here in iRacing, again, I've raced on all the sims and stuff. There is something about, like, when you see it cloud over, like, this track's getting quick. It's not just a visual thing. This track's about to speed up and stuff. There's so much going on. By the way, we're told that the 46, the Altus Esports car, has gotten that into. This is what you were talking about a little bit, Arjunas. Let's see what happened.
43, not 46, Lewis.
First I know what I mean. It's fine.
First he threw Luca Kita under the bus earlier, then
that's silly.
That was just Oscar Mangan being silly, though. Yeah.
That was silly. That was just that gap. Again, is the whole thing of, like, when you're going to go down the inside. If you're going to dive it down the inside at turn 7, that's absolutely fine. But at least pull it up to the apex, and he didn't. Went straight to the side of the Marla car, went for a spin, and it is what it is.
Well, and guys, what did we talk about earlier? Turn 7. Getting the launch out of that corner. You dive down somebody like that, you're going to check up. You've just now lost all of that momentum onto the longest straight, and if there's somebody close, you're going to be a sitting duck for a pass. That was not well advised.
No. And I'm sure Race Control might take a look at it, but at the end of the day, all that Oscar really did is do damage to his own race and his own car, and fortunately I think the other machine got away relatively scot-free. So back over to the Coanda GT3 entry. We haven't talked much about this 188 car, which is going to see some of the younger drivers actually in the making, of course, of the VRS Coanda lineup. Oscar Pye and then Bryn Collins. This is where Charlie Collins, Bryn Collins, if you need nicknames, it's Brollins and Chollins. That's the best that we've come up between the two of them, isn't it, Lewis?
Yeah, no, I've never met Charlie. I've obviously commentated for a little while, but I have met Bryn. I met Bryn last year. Again, super talent, has a lot of speed, has a lot of talent in sim racing. It's lovely to see that VRS Coanda are kind of, they don't just have, like, their Porsche Coanda drivers and that's it. Signed, sealed, delivered, bye-bye. They've effectively got their own little academy and stuff. They're keeping their eye on what's happening, what the future of Coanda looks like. This is one of the longest running teams in sim racing and one of the highest placed teams in sim racing. Whenever you see a list of, like, the top 5 best teams in sim racing, Coanda should be on it. Redline should be on it. These teams that have their little groups of junior drivers. And I actually kind of wanted to touch on the Coanda thing that you were talking about earlier when it comes to their preparation for events. I still remember being at a small event in Germany earlier on in the year, and we were all sat down having a chat. Me, Williams, Apex, we were having a little chat. The lift doors open up, and out comes Porsche Coanda. Bearing in mind, it's in a hotel in the middle of Germany. The door opens, and out comes Mitchell de Jong and Josh Rogers wheeling out a sim rig. And you're like, oh my goodness. And all 4 of their drivers had sim rigs in their hotel rooms. How crazy is that?
As soon as you started with that story, I knew where it was going, and I just remember hearing as well how small the hotel rooms were that they crammed this rig into. Yeah.
They weren't big. They said, no, they were fine. We had to move around a little bit. I was like, what, the bed? They're like, yeah. Oh, right.
The lengths that sim racing teams will go to. Let's head over, though, to the race leader, though, as they continue just to be chased down by the 71. It's now down to 2.5 seconds between the number 91 and the BMW M Team Redline. This is where I am starting, Greg, to wonder if it is going to be an entire pit stop cut off, though, for VRS Coanda, because let's say they can go as long as 50-odd laps. I still feel as though that's a good 55-minute stint. They're right on the precipice of that right now. It's going to be quite close.
It is. It is going to be. It's a tough pull here, but they have played it to perfection. And I saw Charlie Collins do it earlier. I saw Lauren Heinrich do it earlier. Every time they're behind somebody, they don't overly. I'm talking about a GTP car. They don't overly hustle to get through. They just let that car pull them around a little bit here. They're doing everything they can on that fuel save. And the nice thing is, if your fuel, you've got to be mindful of it, because sometimes fuel save comes at the expense of tires, right? Because you're rolling a lot more energy through the turn because you're coasting in. And so you've got to really be on top of that game. And you want those tires to still be really good when the car's at its lightest. You mentioned that already, Arjuna.
And one thing that is something that the GTP drivers can do that GTD can no longer do is you just look at the line in through turn number 1. And if you didn't believe these are rocket ships, I mean, just the way they corner through that opening turn, it's remarkable. Let's just think as well about the fact that these teams, Lewis, have really got to figure out how to balance the resource management, right? How to get the most from the tire and the fuel across of all the different races that we really have.
Yeah, of course, 4 rounds of the season, starting here at Road Atlanta. We go to Sebring and Daytona at the end of the season, but next time it's Watkins Glen. Something, such a different challenge to what we have here at Road Atlanta. The tight and twisty roller coaster. Watkins Glen is basically full throttle. It's wild with how fast it is. Traffic management won't be as difficult around there. You've got so much space to deal with it, unlike here. And I'm pretty sure we're going to keep a nice pack tight together for quite a lot of Watkins Glen. That said, here at Road Atlanta with 56 minutes left to go, going to have a 3-way fight for the race lead in GTP.
I'm a little bit worried about that chicane. We'll see how things go with the overlap of traffic at Watkins Glen, but yes, it's going to be a lot of fun. And of course, that is just a week away. It's not it's not a long turnaround, I should say. It's a quick turnaround for them to dial their cars in. More track limit violations beginning to come on in. I see one that's come on in for the Nitro Circus Sim Racing team, the number 72, the number 91 as well. So that's the VRS Coanda machine with Lauren Heinrich. To explain this as well, Greg, I mentioned earlier there's an off-track limit. A lot of people will be watching and familiar with iRacing special events where as those numbers climb on up, there are incident penalties that get played out. But instead here, it's consistent, repeated abuses of the track limit over a specific couple of laps.
Well, and obviously things are going to happen, and we've talked about it. You're running in traffic, you turn in, somebody shuts the door, you make a little adjustment, it forces you over a curb, you run a little bit wide, and I think it's wise to look at it and go, this is one of those venues where every once in a while you're going to get just in a situation where that's the smart move to avoid contact. And so to just penalize you for doing it once makes no sense. I think that's a great rule. If it's a consistent thing lap after lap, well, then it's not something that is, where you've been forced into that. You're just gaining advantage by doing it. And I think that's a wise way to go through it.
This is the thing that bugs Lewis and myself no end, the fact that you can take tires and fuel at the same time. It removes a little bit of the strategy, but it does mean that as Sven Haase gets out and hands over the retro coach .gg by Grid and Go Esports 102. Yes, that is a mouthful of the name, and I'm going to continue reading all of it just to make sure I drill in how long it is. This is a crucial time because 2 hours and 40 minutes and a 45-minute minimum drive time. What does that say? It means one driver can do just shy of 2 hours. One driver must get in, though, before we get to about 45 minutes to go. And what's the one thing that, Greg, you never want to do? Get too close to a drive time violation. Give yourself a little bit of buffer.
Well, it's absolutely. I mean, things can happen. You have a moment, you spin, suddenly you lose 10 seconds and that margin's gone, and now you've got a penalty. Remember, there is also a maximum drive time. I think everybody at this stage, I believe, guys, has pitted and at least done one driver change, so that shouldn't be an issue. But you don't want to run it too long here. We're coming up on that magic number of 45 here at the end here.
And so there's a look at the race leaders, a look of focus, and again, sim racing expressions, Lewis. They may not have their arms crossed in the esports pose, but it's the sim racer look of steely focus.
Yeah, they've both got their experience as well when it comes to real-world racing. Lulham's had his fair share when it comes to open wheelies and stuff in the UK. Now trying to close up on the 91, although I've got to say, I do expect VRS Command to be in the pit lane very shortly, because obviously, 53 minutes left to go. Depends how much fuel saving they want to do on that final stop and how much they've got at this point. But to kind of pit in the next sort of 2, 3, 4 laps. There we go, straight in.
And so,
I'm good at my job.
This is the marker. That's why Lewis McGlade is the 2-time Simi Award winner. Lauren Heinrich brings his way down onto the lane. And with 53 minutes to go, Greg, we know these two cars, same place identically effectively on track as the 192 is in the box as well. The only difference now is going to be how quick they are on the track itself, how much fuel saving they have to do, and how much fuel they put into the car in this pit stop.
Absolutely, and the team red line entry, or excuse me, the 170 is in as well, but here he comes, the number 92, Zach Campbell coming in, and I really think the way that this has been going, that was another 47 lap stint for both of them. This is doable. This is absolutely doable, guys.
This is not just doable, but I think for them, in the case of the 92 with Michael Romanidis doing the first stint as opposed to Ian Changuven, who is the regular second driver. There was a little bit of damage limitation after maybe a slightly disappointing qualifying performance for the 92 to be starting down, and I think it was 8th or so position, but it leaves, at least for the moment, at least for maybe 20 or so laps before they come back down to the pit lane, Chris Lulham and Matt Farrow at the front of the field. Deja vu back to the 2023 iRacing Petit Le Mans, the final of our VCO Grand Slams, where these two were on display once again. Battle for 12th is quite fun as the Nitro Circus Sim Racing team emerges just in front of one of those VRS Coanda cars, merging up into the track, but also chasing down the Hydra Race Geodesic Racing, the black and gold machine with John Baderfer behind the wheel, race leader from the GTD in for the very final time today, Lewis.
Yeah, indeed. Obviously, you can see straight in behind them, Alex Dunn into the lane. So we'll see that switch. Alex Dunn will jump out of the car, and his teammate will jump into Salvatalla's behind the wheel. Expected to see them in. I mean, for the moment, the Apex Racing team are playing their cards so well in the GTD category. Let's be honest, as they were doing 12 months ago when they won the championship, they looked so strong, they looked like a formidable force. I'd be a little scared if I'm in that GTD category, because we're very much seeing a similar Apex Racing team camp in that side of things.
Yeah, again, can I go back and edit my quote in the press release that went out to say that I think one team is going to dominate? We'll have to wait and see. Down through that, was it 80-foot drop you said, Lewis?
Yeah, I think it's 80 foot, isn't it? That's what I've got it written down as.
It's not a bad stat, that, and it just illustrates how dramatic it really is. And equally dramatic as you come, cars exiting the pit lane, running up into turn number 3, and the Nitro Circus Sim Racing team, Blake Reynolds, of course, many will know him for his eNASCAR experience, but more and more nowadays, Greg, in the world of NASCAR, eNASCAR, you've got to be able to turn right, not just left as well.
In the real world too. I mean, they're bringing a lot more road racing action in, and I think it's because of the challenge. I mean, drivers love going left and right, using the brakes and the gearbox, and in we go. The number 190, Luca Kita from second spot.
And so these are crucial stops rather in the GTD. Smile on the face of the Nitro Circus Sim Racing team as he enjoys the focus on the battle. And of course, we're only going to see the Nitro Circus Sim Racing team for this opening round of the championship. They won't be scoring points, but they are very much showing us exactly what they can do for round 2. I'm not going to reveal too much just yet, but Lewis, it's going to be another exciting team joining us in this 2023 IMSA Esports Michelin Global Championship.
Yeah, we're going to get 2 new commentators into the booth. Me and Arjuna are taking on the squad. Let's go. No, obviously not. No one literally no one wants to see that. Now on board though with Blake Reynolds, of course, we've spoken about like real NASCAR drivers and how they're doing a lot of road courses. Obviously, eNASCAR they do their fair share, and we've seen plenty of drivers do their fair share of road course racing, including this dude, Casey Kerwin, behind the wheel of the XZ car. I did a race last year, it must have been, at Long Beach, where Casey Kerwin was in, and I could not believe how much faster a lap he was than me. Don't get me wrong, I'm not that bad at Long Beach. I like a bit of Long Beach, but damn, he was fast. He's one of the fastest road course racers in iRacing, and he just so happens to be the best on the ovals as well.
He's almost 10,000 iRating on the road side of things to add to the plenty of iRating he's got on the ovals. Now, was that a red line car going deep into the box, or did they hit their marks perfectly?
171.
It was Florian Lebigra, that I spotted, but I did notice they were a bit deep in the marks. We'll have to wait and see if it cost them out on track. But yeah, this final pit stop cycle for the GTDs playing itself out. Luke McEwen takes over in the 101. Sal Vitalis takes over in the 199. So both of the Apex drivers now back out on track and 4 seconds splitting them. But curiously, it's that 199 car that's now only 2 seconds clear of the lead red line car, the Ferrari, the 170. Ole Steinbraten starting to put the pressure on. And as the 188 sits on the jacks, Greg, after one driver has just gotten in, he's battling a driver who's already been in the car for a full stint. This is where the best really get paid their money for switching on as soon as they jump in.
And that's the magic, isn't it? That's one of the things that separates the good from the great, in my opinion, is the ability to just have your head in it, but be able to get into the car and within a couple of laps be able to be there and be right at the absolute necessary pace. Not an easy thing to do when the other driver, one has a feel for the track, has a feel for the tires, has a feel for the competition. It's a big ask, and that's where the great ones do shine.
And it's where the benefit of sim racing is you can always just putter off into a test session before you actually jump back into the car. If only you could do that in the real world. Get all the cars cleared off the track while the race is going on so you can get a bit of practice before you jump back on to things. That's a send up the inside as Robert Glerum gets past Fernando Busquets, but now as they battle off the corner, almost leaning on one another, drag race as the hybrids spool up. It's Acura versus Porsche, and the might of the Acura gets in front for now.
Yeah, we'll see if this lasts all the way down into the chicane. Obviously, a few more drivers and such into the pit lane. Did want to ask, guys, how long has Florian Lebigra been at Redline?
It's very recent. I'm glad that you're getting
genuinely shocked me there. Obviously, one of the drivers that was runner-up last season in the touring car category, including the race win at Laguna Seca. But that was for Mr. Roman Grosjean. So just like F1 drivers, he's gone from Roman Grosjean over to Max Verstappen.
Look at this craziness, though, as we rise up through turn one. Satellite Racing in front of Pure Sims, Obsidian, and behind them, you've got the Nitro Circus Sim Racing team trying to close, of course, from almost 20 seconds back, and it's helped when you're battling like this. Florian Lebigra takes that 171 through a shortcut in the grass because of how crazy things were. But things are so crazy that let's settle things down in the broadcast booth. Let's jump back over to the camp of VRS Coanda. Charlie Collins back into the number 91. Lauren Heinrich out, and he's ready to chat with our own Greg Creamer.
Hey, Lauren, again, just an absolutely great stint behind the wheel. You guys have been doing a masterful job of fuel save, and it looks to me like there have been the occasion out there when you maybe could have gone around a GTP car a little bit quicker than you did, but you elected to just sit, let them help you out just a little bit.
Yeah, thank you, first of all. It was not easy, as you said. We had to save tons of fuel. Of course, sometimes the traffic helps you, sometimes it doesn't help you, because, yeah, really often I was in the situation that I need to do a big lift and I wasn't really able to follow the other GTPs, which I maybe could overtake if I go flat out. But yeah, let's see how it plays out. I think right now it's quite difficult to say. For me, it was quite exciting. It was my first sim race again of this winter break. But I really enjoyed it, and let's see, Charlie's doing a stellar job.
But you seem to fit right into driving these prototypes. I'm guessing you've got an eye toward that in the future and in the real world too, don't you?
Yeah, let's see. I mean, this year was my first year in GT3 racing, which I was really happy about. It was really successful. Looking into prototypes, of course, Porsche is having the beautiful 963, which is a dream of every racing driver for sure. But I think that's a look into the deep future. First of all, I want to be successful in the GT world, and then let's see where I end up.
Absolutely. Last question, I just want to ask here, in that fuel save, were you able to get that done without taking too much of a toll on the tires?
I think actually it helps to save a bit fuel. It actually also helps the tire wear. But I also have to say, we do more laps. So I think we do like 5 or 6 laps more than the others. So at the end it gets a bit tricky just with the tires because you put so much mileage on it. So yeah, you need to be careful about or mindful about the fuel, about the tires, traffic. It was really, really exhausting mentally to do this stint. But I think that's what sim racing is all about, and that's why it's so much fun to race here.
Well, you did a great job. Congrats. Charlie's back behind the wheel. Go enjoy it to the finish.
Thank you, I will.
That was a fun little chat with Lauren as he sits behind the wheel of a sim rig, and we did see on screen the number 99 Apex Racing Team car diving down the pit lane for a drive-through penalty as race control just continues to work their way through the sea of incidents. I think we're up to 70 reported incidents. That does, I must say, include the track limit violations, which race control is entering themselves manually, so maybe read into that with a pinch of salt. We've got battles, though, for your lead in GTP, BMW M Team Redline and Williams split by 0.8 of a second, and Lewis for second in the GTDs.
Yeah, Ollie Steinbratton there just navigating the Maniti Lambo, which they do quite nicely down into T10. Salva Talent's feeling that pressure. Of course, the Apex Racing Team would love this to be a 1-2. In the GTD category to start out the season. It looks like the win is most certainly on the cards, 5 seconds down the road, but you never know what's going to happen in the next 40 minutes. Of course, GTDs have all basically finished their pit stops. They've all done their last trips down the pit lane and left race control, bring them back. For Ollie Steinbratton, and then it's a fight to take over second spot. It's a fight to try and race that gap up towards the race lead, but you know that Salva Talent is not exactly going to let Ollie Steinbratton pass easily.
And all of these drivers, I believe, have done their final pit stops. The only teams in GTD owing us pit stops before the end of the race are effectively those laps down and involved in the wars, and there have been plenty of them. We had 46 starters, let's not forget the 21 GTPs, the 25 GTDs. Out there and still circulating, 41 machines. It is still busy around the Michelin Raceway Road Atlanta. And look there on the left side, you've got private label Team Hype and Urano. Those are cars on different laps, but this is what we were saying earlier, Greg. The traffic in the first couple of laps was infrequent. You get it in bunches and then you get clean air. Not so anymore.
No, at this stage of the race, everything's so spread out, and as you've talked about, without the cautions, it's just, everybody is just running in their own battles, and the faster cars are going to catch them in a hurry. And Arjun, I wanted to get back. You've asked me a few times about how does somebody mentally deal with a certain situation. To me, and a big spin here for the 95. Casey Irwin in the XSEC car got away with it in terms of no contact. Again, it looked like he almost lost that, maybe coming out of 6 into 7.
And that is such a fast corner on entry because turn 6 is cambered in. You're straddling the curb on the left-hand side just to give yourself a little bit more speed in towards the corner. Let's see if it was maybe just on the grass or was it the brake migration, something that we know a lot of these GTPs struggle with occasionally, as the regen is, of course, part of that braking potential of the car. Following CrowdStrike behind the door and Marla GTDs and just locks up all by himself.
Yeah, just overdid it there, unfortunately. Like I say, we see if there's one thing that I have been told so many times about the GTPs, it's the brakes that are the big problem. Whether it is the energy recovery locking up the rears, whether it is the front just locking, the brakes are almost certainly the hardest bit.
And so as Casey Kerwin's charge takes a step back momentarily, we'll see what the 95 can do. Let's head things down to a driver that grabbed a 3rd consecutive pole position in the IMSA Esports Global Championship. Alejandro Sanchez is standing by with Greg Creamer.
Alejandro, first of all, congratulations on the pole. Secondly, an absolutely stellar opening stint. You were able to create a nice gap for the most part. You happy with that first stint?
Yeah, quite happy. We got lucky with the traffic. I think we had just the good rotation. In the second stint we had the bad rotation and we kept getting them without losing any time. So we managed to create a gap and just work from there. Quite happy with pole position as well. I wasn't really expecting it, but I think we were one of the only teams to do 4 laps, and my lap was probably the best lap I've done all week. which is pretty nice. But yeah, overall super happy, and yeah, just looking forward to the end of the race and how we manage the traffic and these tires.
Less than 40 minutes to go at this stage. Are you finding that you're keeping the tires alive through the entire length of the stint, or you have to be a bit careful?
You gotta be super careful at the beginning, otherwise they're gone by the end, and even more so with this car, which usually requires a little bit more slip angle than other GT3s. Is a bit different to drive, so finding that fine margin between lap time and tire wear is very difficult at the beginning of the stint, but I think we are managing just right.
Yeah, doing a very good job. Last question. Obviously, you guys have to be driving with a huge eye to your mirrors constantly. Are you finding, that you're not getting impeded too much by the GTP cars coming through, or have they been a real problem?
In the first stint, they were super nice. Like, I kept getting them, as I said, in nice places. But in the second stint, they lost me a lot of time. But it's just the way multi-class is. Like, you get them in awkward places, and both of you lose time. It's all about luck, and luck balances itself out during the race. So in the end, it's usually more or less the same for everyone. So it's a good factor to have.
Yeah, it's like life, isn't it? Timing often plays so much of a role here. You guys have played the cards absolutely beautiful today, though. Enjoy the rest of this one.
Thank you very much.
Nice little chat there again with Alejandro, who seems to really be settling in nicely now, a couple of years into his stint with the Apex Racing team, and just going from strength to strength, no matter where, which car, which series he's ending up competing in. Now, big drama. A, BMW M Team Redline have made a pit stop, so they have dropped down the running order. B, BMW M Team Redline have a penalty incoming, Lewis, as maybe was expected after contact with that 190 from Urano.
Yeah, I wasn't sure if they've actually just served the penalty straight away. But either way, they've still got to make another pit. Well, they would have had to. They've got to make that a pit lane twice. There is a 71 back onto the pit lanes. I think you're absolutely right. It was pit stop first, and now drive through being dished out. It pains me to say, not a shock. We were expecting that penalty for a long time. Finally, we got that note from race control, and back into pit lane for our dominant, in a sense, our race leader. Now Williams Esports have the control.
And so effectively track the 11 versus, as well, there we go. In fact, Williams Esports and Matt Farrow bring it into the lane with 37 minutes to go. So it's not going to be a full service for them to get them to the checkered flag. But we'll just have to watch the blend. Them versus Charlie Collins in the 91. Where are they respectively on track, given that those are now the two that we would expect to be towards the front? Altus Esports and Oscar Mangan still a little bit ways behind in the strategy game and the equation as it sits right now. But as Apex and Redline battle for second and third in the GTD class, this is where Ollie Steinbraten is on the back of Sauber Talons as they dive their way down towards the line once more. The second of the red line cars, that 171. We saw Florian Lebigra running a little bit wide. They're still in 5th position. It's a good day so far, Greg, to have 2 cars in the top 5.
Absolutely great, Jay. And this is that scary moment right here. You have a car coming out of the pits, another one at speed up through 1 and a 2, and then coming up in the back of two GTD cars. Everybody handled that absolutely beautiful. And Arjuna, I want to get back to what you were talking about that mental game, having sat there for a while and now have to jump in. I think one of the worst, and we've seen it, have to be dealt with now by Maxime Briand and also Chris Lullum, is you're in your mode, you're doing an absolutely great job. You have to do a drive-through penalty for something that happened an hour and a half ago that you weren't in the car for. That can really rattle you just a little bit. That'll, when it's that long of a gap here, but there's so many incidents, race control has to take their time to get through them.
I'm not sure if Ollie Steinbraten is actually racing from the Team Redline headquarters, but it did seem as though he's got a. He did have a Red Bull fridge behind him.
That's true. That is true. And he was having a little sip as he was driving along. I mean, it could well be. And this is the thing, I don't really know how they're doing the facilities, because obviously Redline have their facility, and it's where it's all going to get very confusing with the whole Redline Red Bull kind of whole area now.
Well, Sebastian Job going to end up in the Netherlands to go race from the Red Line facility? Probably not, especially if he's doing double duty, combining Porsche Esports Super Cup responsibilities with his simulator responsibilities in the Red Bull Racing team itself. But yeah, be curious to see if it is the 170 that is running from the Red Line headquarters. Salvatalen's definitely not running from Corby. He's at home, and now what? 4.5 seconds back from Luke McEwen, so it's not as though, Greg, that these drivers are that far behind the race leader. It's just held steady. The 101 has been pacing these drivers behind.
Yeah, every time anybody, makes a lunge, makes a move, comes up, that car, the 101, has just been able to answer, and just, every time there's been a little bit of a push, they've been able to respond, and, doing it minimally, which is what you want to do. We talked about that before, is you've got to protect a little bit the tires, and so you respond just enough to, it's driving the gap, essentially, and that's crucial. We're getting another warning here for, I think it was the number 4, the CrowdStrike Racing of Michaels, of track limits. He is pushing hard.
And I think as we see the driver just running their way through the grass as well, maximum commitment that the track limit violations are starting to rack on up. You get 2 warnings before the first penalty is given out, 30 minutes to go, and there's an opportunity. Red Line's 170 almost has some overlap, but Salvatalen's holds on for now. The traffic can't displace Apex from second, Lewis.
Got the private label team hype as well coming through. That was a dicey. That was the best look that we've seen for a while in this battle for second. At the moment, though, got to say, the gap for the race, is kind of hovering. I almost think they might be coming down in the GTDs as we can see the number 4 into the pit lane. Obviously, he's just received that warning not to drive through. This is the final stop for the CrowdStrike Racing car. As we come down towards 10A and 10B, we'll see if there is going to be an opportunity. Surely, Ollie Steinbratten's going to go for something down here, but the straight line speed of that M4 seems plenty potent enough.
Yeah, let's see if he's going to be able to look to the inside, but you've got to just wonder, can they afford to lose each other some time at this phase of the race? They've got 5 seconds to the virtual coach GG by GNG, the second of the Red Line machines that are effectively now just fighting for 4th and 5th positions. Will they bring those cars into the mix if they start to tussle as they run their way down to the line? Let's take a look back at just some of the craziness. Now, we've become so accustomed to this across of our VCO Grand Slams, seeing the commitment, the dedication from these prototypes, sticking their car in places, Greg, that some real-world drivers might think twice about.
Well, especially at a track like this, right? With these speeds, look at this move on the outside, then coming right back over. If he mistimes that, he's in that outer wall. So that is absolute sheer commitment, as the number 43 of Oscar Mangan in.
And so, of course,
as well.
It was, but maybe there's a bit more trust there, Lewis, that, it's my teammate, they'll give me the space.
Maybe, but still, that was if there's a place that I don't really want to be sending it last minute on my teammate, it's there. Like, oh my goodness.
Rule number 1 of racing, whether it's real or virtual, is don't hit your teammate. Fortunately, we got away with that one without too much drama. So as the GTP pit stops come to a close at the front of the field, it's now Williams that lead from Apex, from Urano and Nitro Circus Sim Racing. Now, I do believe, I need to correct myself instantly, Apex Racing Team do still owe us a pit stop, but just came in for their drive-through penalty about 11 laps ago, so that's slightly skewing how the timing's reporting to them. The important number, I think, here, though, Lewis, is the fact that A, it's Williams and Urano 1 and 2, and now Red Line down in 3rd. But there's also 15 seconds between Williams and Urano's number 90.
Yeah, I mean, Williams at the moment, they've got 31 minutes to bring this one home. That's what they've got to do. Make sure that that they're tidy, that they're comfortable through traffic, and not taking any major risks at the moment. They've put themselves in a strong spot. Just need to bring it home.
And so with, 2 and a bit hours complete in this opening round of the 2023 IMSA Esports Michelin Global Championship, let's cycle back through some of the highlights from the opening 2 hours, of course, and it all started with a concertina that saw the rear wing of the race clutch GTP getting dislodged, satellite into the wall. Fortunately, a little bit more coordinated for the GTDs as they made their way up into the opening corner. Couldn't be said, though, for the GTP. They just continued tussling with one another. But then finally, the overlap of traffic began, and you just saw some of the drivers recognizing the need to filter into line. Not so lucky, though, was the number 89, Nicholas Boy, out of pit lane with cold tires. Peter Berryman ran into the back of him and sent the BMW M Hybrid spinning around. Hour 2 would get underway, and while the Nitro Circus Sim Racing team making their debut appearance in the series and their only appearance for 2023, getting involved with Altus's Lamborghini. Not sure how Altus will look on the Nitro Circus star power in that car, but it was all about turn 7 for the most part in some of the incidents that we saw. Also, it was fuel-saving games as Coanda tried to cut out an entire pit stop from the race. Lauren Heinrichs, number 91, holding up the likes of Sam Michaels and the CrowdStrike number 4, but the Eagles on the back sliding on through, sliding down through the S's. A little bit later then for CrowdStrike's number 3, after damage for them in the early stages, they got tumbled back through the field. There was damage early for Satellite. They made a subsequent mistake trying to serve a drive-through penalty as well. But for the most part, up towards the front, it's been, again, all about turn 7. Eduardo Leo had a great opening stint on his outlap. Oscar Mangan slightly threw that one away. Casey Kerwin then, after Owen Carroll did an amazing job in the opening stint, locked up all 4 tires straight into the back of one of his fellow competitors and spinning it around with now 2 hours of competition complete. Again, it's been busy for Race Control. They've now officially gone through 50 incident reports, and the latest penalty is a drive-through for the Nitro Circus Sim Racing number 72. Arjuna Kankipati alongside Lewis McLean and Greg Creamer with the final 30 minutes on deck. And Greg, again, it's been amazing to have you join us for this intersection of IMSA with virtual motorsports. How are you enjoying it so far as the weather starts to cool down on track?
Absolutely enjoying it, every minute of this. As I said, it's just incredible how closely it really models what it's really like racing at speed with these 2 very disparate classes around this incredible track. And you know, this track, to me, is magical. It's a place that I have tremendous history with on a lot of different levels, but it's always been one of my favorites because of how fast, furious. You know, it's sort of a speed bowl with some elevation in it, and with cars that have such different approaches to how they make speed and the difference in their outright speed and closing speeds. This has just been absolutely fascinating, because it's playing out exactly like races that I've called here real time before, and it's absolutely fascinating. I'm enjoying every minute of it.
And as we ride on board with Norwegian Ole Steinbraten and still wonder if he's racing from home or from the Red Line headquarters in the Netherlands. Lewis, I mean, last year, GTDs and touring cars, we had a lot of fun, but I think all of us were secretly hoping that we'd add some prototypes. We haven't just added 1, we've added all 4 in this GTP class, and as much as they have taken center stage, these GTD drivers and the cars and the teams continue to put up some amazing fighting into turn number 1.
Steinbrand looking to the outside at T1, going for the up and under as he's trying to work his way again. This is the battle for 2nd position in that GTD class. I was going to say, you know, it's kind of one of those things we were talking about, introducing GTPs and having the prototypes racing around and thinking, oh well, yeah, 1 would be cool. Like it would have been cool, but it kind of would have been a bit like, you know, it wouldn't have been as cool. It wouldn't have been as great. Having all of them there, having a great field of GTDs, and then having just an amazing field of drivers and teams from the highest levels of sim racing, you know, with official manufacturer backing, with official team backing, with drivers and stuff in the real world of motorsport being part team owners here, there, and everywhere. Honestly, this is absolutely amazing. We loved this championship last year, and for me, this is even better. Although I would like a couple of safety cars to spice things up.
I mean, that was, again, the decision to remove the safety cars as 3 wide down into the chicane. The Mercedes-AMG Williams Esports car gets out of the way as the GTPs fly on past. The removal of the safety car was based on feedback from the teams. At the end of the day...
It makes sense.
But you say it makes sense. I don't personally think it makes sense. But the edict from IMSA, the edict from VCO in building the series, Greg, is a sim racing series for sim racers by sim racers. It's the understanding that we want to try and make this as close to the IMSA WeatherTech Sports Car Championship as we can, but we're going to make small concessions here and there to make this as competitive a series for the drivers that make it as great as it is.
And I think that's a great call. And you know, Lewis, I'm with you. I like that a safety car bunches things up, allows somebody to get a lap back. I enjoy all of that. But I certainly understand from a sim racer's perspective, sitting in your chair at home when you've been so involved in this and just trundling around under caution for 5, 6 laps, 7 laps. I get that completely. But you know, on the other hand, when you don't have the safety cars, it puts a lot of onus and pressure on you. Execute, don't make mistakes, be perfect, and that's ultimately what a sim racer wants to do, right?
Yeah.
We are starting to see track limit penalties coming on in. Again, 2 warnings before drivers actually incur a penalty for continuously abusing the bounds of the track, and that is a very poor exit for Sal Vitalis and the BMW. 3 wide down through the final corner. Yes, you will, as VRS Coanda slides on through. Nitro Circus Sim Racing coming through as well, all the way to the grass, as Steinbraten once again, Lewis, tries to go around the outside. This is dangerous. Contact almost between the two of them. Orion's Porsche gets out of it, and Steinbraten steals second away with a brilliant move around Apex's outside.
Yeah, unreal. There goes the Orion car straight around the outside and then waits between them. Oh, Ollie Steinbraten, he is sat there thinking, oh yes, that is perfect. Thank you so much. The GTP just sort of sitting between the pair of them and just allowing that gap to grow. Brilliantly timed move, brave move to have done it at the final corner and taken it all the way to T1, to have sent it around the outside of T1. You know, that's what makes this circuit so good. That's what makes it in multi-class traffic so good. You don't get those moves often, but when you do, you feel like you've earned it as a driver, and us as a viewer, you know, there's no DRS button there pushed just to fly past the car. That was earned.
And they show that you can go 2x2, Greg, down through turn number 1, as Wayne Taylor Racing and Action Express failed to do earlier just a couple of weeks ago.
That's very true. You know, but the one thing Ollie did there, I always talk about this high-speed game of chess. He played that chess move beautifully. He was setting that up for laps. I was watching what he was doing. He's got great mid-corner roll speed, but coming out of 7, he doesn't get quite the launch of that BMW. So by the time he starts to equalize the speed, he just kind of runs out before he can do anything down into turn 10. But I watched him every time through 12. He knew he rolled better speed through there. He just was persistent, set that up to perfection, guys.
Left side of the screen, see the manufacturers. It's BMW lock out of the podium currently in the GTP, but it's with 3 of the strongest teams in this GTP class. Williams, Urano, and BMW M Team Redline have really competed at the top level since this BMW M Hybrid was introduced to iRacing at the close of 2022. Porsche and VRS Coanda, 4th and 7th, and then the third of the Porsche is actually inside of the top 10. It's Obsidian's number 96 that you can see just over the shoulder of Nicholas Rubelar is being hunted down by Zach Campbell. Rubelar being chased down by the 171 with Florian Lebigre. You mentioned you were surprised, Lewis, to see Florian Lebigre behind the wheel of the Redline car. Are you surprised to see Nicholas Rubelar behind the wheel of that Ferrari virtual coach by Grid and Go?
Yeah, I mean, you know, fair enough. I think, like, to be fair, the Florian Lebigre one really did catch me off guard. So now I'm all kind of like settled. You know, you could set anyone behind any wheel now, and I'd be like, oh right, yeah, fair enough. Yeah, again, that's the wide world of sim racing. There are a lot of switches happen all the time. Sometimes, you know, we miss them. Sometimes we're kind of sat there looking at them, being like, oh, maybe we have missed them, maybe we haven't. Got word, the number 11 race leader Williams Esports into the pit lane, drive through. Oh my goodness me.
And this is what happened to BMW M Team Redline. It's about a 20-second delta with this drive-through penalty. It means Dominic Hoffman and Jonas Wallmeyer will take the race lead in the Urano Esports Data Group car. There's the white and red that streaks its way towards turn number 1 and to the lead of the race. It will be neck and neck between the 11 and the 71 as they rise their way up in towards turn number 3. But what did we say at the start, Greg? Stay out of trouble. Williams Esports and BMW M Team Redline being caught out in the race control office.
Absolutely, and I mean, all that hard work Josh Ladd did early, and then had the answer, of course, with his teammate there as well, Farrow, all for naught because of that little bit of a lack of patience, and it's now hurt them huge at this stage of this race with, what, just a little bit over 20 minutes to go, and a 6.5-second lead for Jonas Wallmeyer right now.
And this is where, again, Lewis, Urano Esports in particular, when it comes to Dominic Hoffman, already has picked up a victory today in this particular car.
Yeah, I mean, the 90 just picked up a warning for track limits themselves. We were talking about this beforehand, it was like, who's going to win this race? You can't really pick them, it's unpredictable, it's this, that, and the other. And I did say, I was like, I reckon I might know what car it might be, i.e. what manufacturer, and we were kind of leaning towards it maybe being a BMW. But the thing is, with this, this car, they're so good on strategy, Urano. When you look at the Michelin keys to the race we were talking about before it, they've kept it on the road, they've accepted they're going to lose time in traffic, they've not been impatient from what we've seen, and they've definitely not underestimated anyone. I think people have underestimated them, which is wild, because every single time we say this, they may not be the fastest in this car, but when it comes to strategy and when it comes to keeping it clean, they are one of the absolute best. And that's why they've won, what is it, 6 races, 7 races now? I think it might even, no, it's 7 races now in BMW IMSA Cup.
Yeah, it's been quite remarkable, just the level of consistency that we have seen from Urano in that particular car. And I must say, new paint scheme, it makes our lives as commentators a little bit easier now that we can pick it apart from some of the other black and red machines that we often see. You can see the black and red of the Mercedes, Nicholas Laubish being chased down by Bryn Collins, the younger of the 2 Collins in the field. It's the 188 Coanda car, currently in 12th position. Now, they are up 12 positions, but Greg, that's the problem. You qualify poorly in a field like this, you're always going to have plenty of work to do, and as our producer chimes in the ear, it's the traditional stress look for Bryn Collins in Monmouth in the United Kingdom.
Got the little tongue out there, working the energy up through the turns, but you're right. Qualifying, especially at a track that we've talked about here, that has this constant change of direction and mental focus. If you're caught in the middle of the pack in your group, one, you're a lot more suspect to an incident early, right? But secondly, you're also going to have that faster lap traffic of the GTPs coming through a lot sooner, and keeping you possibly from gaining even more spots. So yeah, you can never discount qualifying. That's why IMSA, to me, wisely, decided when they made that point structure change to add some pretty hefty points for qualifying, because it is so key to success in a race.
On board still, looking this time over the roof cam scoop from this brand new 992 generation Porsche GT3R. Of course, we had Porsches in the field last year, Lewis, but this, much like the Ferrari, a new addition to the class compared to what we saw in 2022.
Yeah, of course, GT3s as a category is pretty old now. It's been around for a very long time, and with that, that they're going to go through evolutions of cars. Obviously, for likes of Ferraris, they can move from a 488 to a 296 and all that kind of stuff. 458 before that, and etc. etc. They can go through those changes. The Porsche doesn't really change that much, but it's the underneath of the car, the architecture underneath it. You compare this to a GT3 car from 10 years ago, and it is wildly different. That's why we see these evolutions of cars. And to be fair, that's why the GT3 category, obviously here in the GTD form, it's so widely versatile in the world of motorsport. We see it all the time. I mean, I've almost got bored of seeing GT3s flying it around a racetrack, seeing it in the UK constantly, like pretty much every week this year. I've been seeing them bounced around. But they're such a great spectacle. They're such in air quotes, an affordable way to go racing. And when you see them here in iRacing, it's one of the most race categories in it, because there's so much variety inside it.
And of course, the manufacturers support not just the category in the real world, but support the programs in the sim as well. Both Mercedes and Porsche, of course, have their affiliation with sim racing programs. Both have various sim racing competitions as well. And of course, yesterday on the iRacing Esports Network, we wrapped up the 2023 technically Porsche Tag Heuer Esports Super Cup Contender Series, and now look forward to 2024 and another exciting year of Esports Super Cup action to come. See the timing tower on the left-hand side, the field starting to show its gaps through as we look to the inside from Bryn Collins as he tries to work on the back of that Mercedes. The race leading margin, Greg, is starting to come down. Ever since Redline's Ferrari got up to second, Ollie Steinbratten's been working on trying to close on the 101. The other Redline car trying to get past the 102 Virtual Coach GG by GNG machine.
Yeah, Steinbratten, once he got to the front, he was able to start dropping 3/4 tenths fairly consistently and is closing that up. The other battle that is really getting interesting is for third overall, the 71 BMW M Team Redline of Lulham. has started to really find pace. And up and well, this last lap, he actually lost a couple of tenths, but he has whittled that down to under 2 seconds, closing on the back of Matt Farrell in that Williams Esports entry. So that's getting pretty interesting as well.
And so we'll have to keep an eye on those two after their respective drive-through penalties. Pure Sims and their Acura send it up the inside of the chicane. Michael sees it coming, leaves the room, but as they cycle out of the corner, the satellite Cadillac behind is not for position. That's a car a couple of laps down who is for position. The recovering Casey Kerwin, who Lewis is only about 1.4 seconds off the back of these two. If they keep fighting like this, if they lose time with the traffic, the XZ95 will be right there.
Yeah, channeling is in a Lightning McQueen at the moment is Casey Kerwin as he's firing it right up to the back of this group, and I think he'll surely get there. We're riding on board with the Movano car. Obviously, one of our Michelin on boards taking a little bit of a look with Scott Michaels at the moment. I think, like, at the moment, you kind of sat there thinking he's obviously aware that Casey Kerwin's closing in, but it's eyes forward right now. It's you know, seeing about getting past the Pure Sims car. That will very much change in about 2 or 3 laps time. Interesting rig there for Scott Michaels as well.
That looks like a proper a stim racer or something. They've got a specific name. Hyperstim, I think I'm getting that correctly. He's got the modern accoutrements, direct drive wheelbase and everything, of course. He's wearing a CrowdStrike Racing shirt as well, so that's how you know that it's official, it's proper. Can you send one to me and Lewis? But Lewis, the problem is we may also have to become employees at CrowdStrike Racing for us to get one of these shirts.
Oh, no. Yeah, go on then. Tell me one.
We know you're not a software engineer. We wouldn't like to unleash any software or any code that you have written onto the world. Poor users is all I will say there. It also just goes to show, though, Greg, the fact that these drivers, 8th, 9th, and 10th positions effectively, 2 hours and a half of racing in, they still find themselves separated by a couple of car lengths between the three of them.
Yeah, virtually nothing. And, you know, running in these packs, it makes their attack all the more important through some of these GTD cars and getting your timing right, because you can easily lose a chunk. But it also speaks pretty well too, doesn't it, that the BOP, yes, we've got the BMWs looking really strong up front, but a lot of mix here back in the field as well, and everybody running relatively competitive times here. And I wanted to get back to Lewis, something you had talked about, one of those, well, really all three of the keys to the race here, and talking about what Urano has done here. You know, many years ago, when you think about Le Mans, when Audi was winning everything and Peugeot decided to make a serious effort, and they hired all these Formula One drivers, ex-Formula One drivers or whatever, that would put it on pole and run like stink for a third of the race, a half of the race, and then hit the curbs too much and break. They got a guy named David Brabham come in and say, here's how we're going to do this, guys, and won right away. And it's when you're running multi-class racing, you've got to keep it clean, and that is what Urano has done absolutely beautifully. Although from what we're just watching here, not everybody keeping it nice and clean.
I've just been keeping an eye on some of the other gaps and still just watching Team Redline continue to close. I'm just thinking about all the crazy things we've seen at the Michelin Raceway Road Atlanta and Petit Le Mans over the years. Greg, you talk about some of the history, but I still think back to what I think is the craziest Petit Le Mans. The one where a prototype didn't win, yeah, and a Porsche GT machine, Lewis, came out on top.
Who were the drivers in that car? I can't remember. Was it
Nick Tandy? I'm pretty sure it was.
See, now the reason why I was kind of like, because I did wonder if it was Nick Tandy, because I turned on a race at Brands Hatch. I'm sure we've all seen some of the pictures and stuff. It was in full KAs, which is ridiculous. And you know, club championship and all this kind of stuff. Just a little bit of casual racing, like, you know, bit of endurance stuff. And I was like, oh yeah, so and here comes Nick Tandy, and I'm like, Nick Tandy? What, he's in this? Yeah, Nick Tandy was doing just some club racing in the UK. You think, Christ, you think of all the things he's achieved in the world of motorsport, and he's like, yeah, do you know what? Mates have asked about if I want to come and drive this little Ford around. Why not?
I mean, to be fair, that's some of the better racing that you can get in the UK. As the Apex Racing team pushes Nicolas Roubillard wide. Florian Lebigra, the Frenchman, alongside. Now back underneath as we come up through turn 5. And contact, red line into the tyres, and that's a hard lick for that 296.
Yeah, that'll be the 171 straight into the barrier. Florian Labigra, front end is completely gone. We'll take another look at it here. Obviously just trying to piece its way through, took a bit of a hit check from all of it. And that is a big shame for Team Redline, running 5th in the category. And yeah, you know, when you've been running pretty well for 2.5 hours, it is a bitter pill to swallow with just 10 minutes left to go to have to return to pit lane. And hey, the damage repair from that might take longer than 10 minutes.
Yeah, I mean, the 296 is designed in a way that you can replace the rear clip of the car in about 3 minutes time. I'm not sure you can do that to the front clip of the car, no matter how clever the engineers back at Ferrari were. Here's the replay, and it all starts as the Apex Racing Team car, not for the first time today, does send it down the inside, but I think there was actually maybe okay, based on the information that race control said. It's here as they exit out of turn 5, where the one note that I would have, Greg, is the yellow Ferrari doesn't track out as wide over the crest of turn 5 as traditionally we have seen these cars do.
I was just going to say that. Yeah, I think he was trying to help a little bit and thinking that the car might be going around the outside. The other guy had already committed. He shallowed up his exit, and that's where the contact happened. And it's really difficult. You know, as you said, you come out of 5, you transition, you're, easing over to the other side of the track, and the guy behind you will make their plan. And if you alter what you normally do, that's when things can happen. And I think that's exactly what played out.
Arjuna, we had this conversation like 6 hours ago.
Did
about
we?
Cars. Yes, yeah, with the exit of turn 3 at Zandvoort, about, you know, a car didn't go onto the curb as they normally did, and then you were like, oh well, you know, you should always give the room to the white line. Oh well, on this occasion, whoa, it all changes for you, doesn't it?
I mean,
I'm furious. I'm literally fuming here in the comms box.
I was trying to find a defense, but the 2-time award winner has bested the 1-time award winner with logic. So 9 minutes to go. Let's focus on what actually matters, and that is A, gaps at the front that are coming down. GTP gap at the front has started to increase. It's 7 seconds that Jonas Walmar and Matt Farrow have between the two of them. We watch as down the hill, the car that saves plenty of fuel puts the pressure onto the 96. That's Zach Campbell behind the wheel of the VRS number 92. But Greg, look at the margin between first and second. It's down to 1.7 seconds and closing. Redline are almost in drafting range.
Yeah, incredibly close here, and that has just been an absolutely stellar drive by Ali Steinbrat, and there is no question about that here. And also, as you talked about up front here, yes, we've got Urano has that nice margin up front, but Williams and the BMW Team Redline having a good scrap there. But this drive by Ali Steinbrat, to me, might just be drive of the race.
And we last year did do a Michelin driver of the day. I'm not sure if we're bringing that back for 2023, but I definitely think that would be something across the three of us that we should be talking about in our Michelin post-race coverage here today in this opening round of the 2023 IMSA Esports Michelin Global Championship. It's 1.5 seconds. And yes, I know it's a Mercedes, not a BMW. But Lewis, Ole Steinbratten's passed one of the Corby crew already once today.
I don't think there's much of an argument about where stint of the day is coming from, because as Greg said, absolutely spot on. This stint is unreal from Ole Steinbrat, and it was a 5-second gap. He had to clear the other Apex Racing Team car, and now closing in on a potential series opening victory against the champions themselves. It would be a big statement, you know, to see it. For Redline, we know they are one of the greatest sim racing teams. Apex have really taken it to them in the last sort of 12 to 24 months, and here, well, maybe they can dish some of that back.
I was just looking at the stats from last year. In 4 races across 2 different classes, a total of 3 different teams won races. Apex Racing Team, 4 in the GTD, 1 of course in the touring car category, and then SimRC and Roman Grosjean Esports split some of the victories as well. Lewis, I just look back on that and I think back to last year and us talking about how competitive things were, how crazy things were, and then looking at how stale in some ways the results were at the top. And maybe it's not a surprise in year 2 with the GTPs and the GTDs, Urano, Williams, BMW M Team Redline 1, 2 and 3 in the GTP. Apex, Redline, and Apex in the GTD. It's a similar sort of a story.
Well, the thing is, last season we were missing some pretty big names, you know, the likes of Coanda and such. You know, for the Redline squad that was out there, you know, they didn't seem to quite match with it. Apex had really figured out the Porsche, and we were kind of making some jokes about how maybe they should become one of the Porsche factory teams. Sorry, we will make that joke again, it's fine. But obviously, you know, the things for this season, it's one of the main things when I first saw the entry list. Yeah, it's amazing having the GTPs versus the GTDs when it comes to that sort of like traffic stuff. That's all cool and all that kind of stuff. But the strength of field for this, when it comes to the big names, teams-wise and driver-wise, this is next level.
1.3 seconds still at the front. It's down to 5.5 between Urano and Williams, so traffic's taking a bit away from Jonas Warmar in the last handful of laps. We mentioned a couple of times, Greg, it's a week's turnaround between race 1 and race 2, and then we get a couple of weeks off before we go on December the 3rd for round 3. The fact that we go to Watkins Glen is a fast and furious track, like you mentioned, but in some ways, the setup difficulty there, very different to what we have here. It's going to be an interesting adaptation for the drivers with a new BOP as well to talk about 7 days from today.
Well, absolutely, and you know we're seeing here, you know, like this Ferrari, they found something. There's no question about it here, and doing well. But you know, the Glen, massive amounts of grip, massive amounts of grip. You can run multiple lines around that place. You can do that in a few spots here, but it's easier for overtakes at the Glen, and especially when we're talking GTP on the GTD machinery. So it's going to be a very different dynamic and a much longer lap as well. But I'm just on board again with Ollie Steinbraten here, and he's taken away another 0.3. It's only a second that he is now behind Luke McCowan.
McEwen looks nervous as well. I mean, it's not often that I would say that about a driver, but Lewis, right now, that looks like a concerned 101.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, you know, I commentate on the British Formula 4 Esports Championship, which takes part on iRacing, and Luke McEwen's defending series champion on that, and he's not had the greatest run in 2023 thus far. Obviously, he's taken a couple of wins, but he's involved in a lot of incidents and hasn't looked like the same driver we saw 12 months ago. And, you know, when I look to McEwen and think of like some of the stints that we've seen from him, you know, he's been amazing when it comes to his consistency. Although, you know, I think he was the greatest driver in the McLaren MP4-12C. If anyone remembers back those, he was absolutely the fastest driver. Anytime you see it, it's like, oh my goodness, he's so fast. And you know, he's finding his form in other cars as well. But the 71 returns to pit lane, Arjuna, for another penalty.
As we said, there were a few different things on the race control notebook that they were working on through. They got one penalty down, and, well, Silly Lully unfortunately has to serve the second one as he watches potentially on the red line stream his teammate in the fight for the lead. McEwen loses out a bit as they scamper off of turn 7. Remember, it's tighter than 90 degrees. It's so important to get a good run. The Mercedes gets a decent run down the straight as Steinbraten gets a quick sip of water. And Greg, let's be real, this back straightaway is the only place you can do that.
Absolutely, there is no other. Oh, a moment for rest here, but you can see that McEwen, as he was coming through 7, that prototype got underneath him, and he had to tighten up his exit a little bit, lost a little bit of momentum, and as they come down the hill here, it's what is it going to be? 6/10? Under 6/10.
And so from now, it's into these final couple of laps. There's not going to be a battle at the front of the GTP field. At least right now, Jonas Warmar is holding Williams Esports and VRS Coanda at bay. They have made the fuel strategy work to potentially grab a podium. Lauren Heinrich and Charlie Collins will be thrilled at that, but Lewis, with 2 minutes still left to go, it's two of the biggest teams in sim racing getting ready to throw down once more. You said that Steinbraten had the stint of the race, but there's a difference between closing and passing, and he's got to make sure he does it in a clean way as well.
Yeah, it might need to get a bit lucky with traffic here. Going to get a little bit of assistance. Will McEwen from one of the Apex Racing Team drivers that comes through in the GTP. Got to say, by the way, I was looking at Wallmeyer, who you'll see in the background, that Urano Esports Data Group car. He crossed the line with about 2 minutes 20 left to go, with them running 1 minute 7 lap times roughly. We will have 3 laps to go, 2.5 from this point. That includes these two as well, because they'll obviously drop another lap to Wallmeyer, and so they will lose. So it'll be 2 more laps left to go.
Yeah, there is Urano's number 90. That's what Lewis was just saying as he heads down out of the final corner. This is perfect timing as well. It will allow McEwen the chance to open up the corner and bring that momentum to turn one. He doesn't lose out as a result of that. And confirmation, it is 2 to go as we cross the line with 1 minute and 10 seconds left to run. Oh, the balance of the cars. Greg, these drivers have had to keep in mind the setup that they dialed in at the start of the race had to work at the beginning, the middle, at the end. Steinbratten's come alive, and as the traffic splits them for a moment down through turn number 3 and 4, this is crucial.
He got it down to just under 4/10 and was able to get a little bit better run down through 12 on that last lap. Now prototype traffic affecting him just a little bit, and Luke McEwen right there, he had to check up as that prototype came through. It's less than a car length at the apex of 7, and let's see what kind of roll speed Steinbratten can get.
And so we have, again, one more lap to come after this, but as Steinbratten swigs away cool as you'd like with the Red Bull, it's for the first win in the 2023 IMSA Esports Michelin Global Championship. And maybe the most remarkable stat of them all as we get ready to have this final lap battle, Lewis, Apex are searching, not just to kick their championship defense off on top, but for a remarkable 5th win in a row.
Yeah, they are undefeated at the moment, but how fitting for Redline would it be to take that top honour? White flag being thrown away. Let's see if Ollie Steinbratten can do it. He doesn't have many opportunities round here, but they are there if you are brave. And, well, I don't think there are too many that are less brave than Ollie Steinbratten right now. He's having the stint of his life. He needs the move of his life.
So turn 3's gone. That's not going to be a pass there. Maybe turn 5. No, a little bit too far behind to throw a bit of a surprise. It could be turn 7, it could be turn 10. The reality is, though, it's all now about waiting for the lunge. And if you're McEwen, Greg, you've got to watch for that dive and cover it off before it comes rather than a reactionary move.
That's the key. That is the key here. And here we go. Last time out of 7. And rolled a lot of speed. This is as close as we've seen. Oh, but Ollie got the curb really hard. And you can see he got upset.
He's very frustrated, and that could be it in their fight for the win. But down to the line and victorious in the first race in the GTP era of the IMSA Esports Michelin Global Championship. It's double delight for Urano after victory earlier today, winning at the Michelin Raceway Road Atlanta. The battle for the GT Diesel comes down to the final lap, and Ollie Steinbratten is going to be furious with himself, but take a bow, Ollie, for the drive that you put on display, and Luke McEwen, Alejandro Sanchez will breathe a sigh of a relief. The Apex Racing streak continues, 100% victorious, Lewis, in the GTD class.
5 from 5, but that was not easy. That was very concerning indeed. Mercedes-AMG Team here, ART, obviously that partnership which has started about 3-4 months ago, it continues to move in positive ways, but what an absolutely amazing battle in there. Obviously the race is certainly not done. Battle for 11th absolutely on here. We'll see if Pure Sims can work their way past VRS Commander.
It's a wonderful Michelin livery that they're debuting as well for the very first time today. Thank you to Michelin, the title sponsor of the 2023 IMSA Esports Michelin Global Championship, and Lucas Prada with the send to the inside. Can Bryn Collins hold him off? Not without some contact. The Welshman gets half spun around. The Pure Sims 116 will cycle through to 11. And Greg, the drama for race control is going to continue in the closing couple of hours.
Oh, I would think they've got a little bit of time left to spend in race control working over some of this stuff. But, I mean, what a superb effort, obviously, up front by Urano. Just an absolutely perfectly executed, well-judged race. And, guys, I think that it's possible that what Ollie Steinbratten might have been upset about, not so much about him, I think that Luke McEwen could have done something really good because Ollie got a great run entering 7, and I think Luke McEwen overslowed just a little bit to kill that momentum, and as a result, Ollie had to float out onto those curbs, and that nulled all that run he had.
That's the racecraft on display from some of these drivers, and that's where sim racing is so important. The ability to run so many laps and understand what you need to do. Remember, these are provisional race results for the first round of the 2023 IMSA Esports Michelin Global Championship. Full race results will be able to be found on social media in the coming days, but I don't think there's much question about the fact that Jonas Wallmeyer and the Urano Esports Data Group team will grab the victory only 2.5 seconds clear of Williams Esports at the end. And who knows if the drive-through penalties have played out differently, we might have ended with a new winner here at Road Atlanta. Charlie Collins brings the VRS Commander number 91 to third after taking out an entire pit stop. Let's not forget a remarkable strategy call from them to commit early, while Chris Lolland's second drive-through penalty dropped into fourth in the closing stages. Eduardo Leo put Altus on pole position. Oscar Mangan brings them across the line in fifth, but they will be impressed by the speed on display now, just hoping to marry that up with some consistency. Obsidian Commander, Pure Sims, CrowdStrike, and exit the rest of the top 10 before Apex scored as the final car on the lead lap. The private label team hiked down in 12th position, one lap down in front though of Orion, the Nitro Circus Sim Racing team, Satellite Racing, and then the Wave Italy number 18. 2 laps down for Austin Young before you get into the used car lot where you find the likes of Race Clutches, 15, Nicholas Boy unfortunately got mixed up in that BMW M Team BS competition car, as did CrowdStrike and Drago Racing. So that was the GTPs, their very first race in the IMSA Esports Michelin Global Championship. But for the GTDs, it's a familiar winner at the very top. Yes, the Apex Racing team were pushed to the very end, and the margin of victory scored at half a second at the line. Ollie Steinbratton tried and tried and tried. He finishes second in front of Salva Talons and Alex Dunn for the Apex Racing Team BMW. Nico Rubelar in fourth. Alexander Thieber for the first Urano car in fifth. And then Redline, BS Turner, Drago, Mala, and Urano. Before Pearson's then in 11th, just coming out in front of Bryn Collins and Coanda, although we expect Race Control to have to take a look at that. Grin and Go in 13th, and then Delta Sport and Altus also in Lamborghinis 14th and 15th in front of Impulse, Brab and Maniti. The Team 75 by Bernard Sim RC entry, and then Simify and Gabby Montoro. Door, Williams, Altus, Arnage, and Williams make up the rest of the top 25 in class. Not a great start to the season, unfortunately, for the Mercedes AMG Williams Esports team. But as we head down to the track for some post-race coverage, it's Lewis McLeod standing by with our race winners in GTP.
Yeah, I've been joined by Urano Esports Data Group. I should have Dom Hoffman in here along with Jonas Wallmeyer. We'll start with Mr. Wallmeyer. I mean, talk to us about that race. It was a pretty tricky one, but you kind of jumped in and end up winning. How did that happen? Well, I don't know if they can hear us at present, so we'll try that one once again. Jonas Wallmeyer, well, again, panic over. Jonas Wallmeyer, of course, Dom Hoffman, great wins. Jonas, we'll start with you. Yeah, that start to the race, you watching your teammate there, you jumped in for the second half, and somehow you came out on top. Talk us through that one. How did that happen?
Honestly, I don't know how that happened. Well, of course, because of the penalties for Williams and Redline, but yeah, we stayed clean all race, so in the end we came out on top after a bad qualifying. But yeah, the traffic was insane. Like, it was super close sometimes, and sometimes you need to lift and just stay patient, but it's not easy. So yeah, pretty good win, I would say.
And Dom, it's not your first win today. We didn't catch up with you after BMW M-Sim Cup, but obviously taking a win there, taking a win here. You seem to be pretty good at winning in this car. How is that? Is it strategy or what?
Well, there's a multitude of reasons probably. I mean, we probably after qualifying didn't really think that it was going to pan out this way, but well. If you look back at the season, there's been multiple instances where we've had to come back from like pretty low grip position. So we are pretty well versed in letting the race come to us at this point. Obviously, it's never ideal if you have to fight back all race long. And honestly, we would have been happy with just damage limitation, top 5 or whatever, which was looking pretty likely after 1.5 or 2 stints. So, I mean, overall, the car was quick. I took a bit of time to get up to speed because I was a bit under the weather as well after Sim Cup and before Sim Cup. But yeah, obviously P13 wasn't quite the position that you want to start your race into or going into the race. But in the end, I have to be honest, I'm not quite sure how we ended up in this position because for the last half an hour I was in the bathtub getting rid of all the sweat and everything. So, but yeah, nevertheless, I heard that our main competition for the win, if you want to call it that, because realistically we would have been happy with a P3, but I think both of them got a penalty at some point. So there's an element of fortune in that as well, obviously, but nevertheless, very proud with what we've achieved today, and yeah, can't quite believe it yet. So yeah, this may take a while to sink in.
And Jonas, hearing about that, obviously the penalties for the other cars and stuff, which is kind of what put you in that spot. But that meant that you kept your nose clean. We were talking about this in the Michelin keys to the race about not getting into trouble, keeping it on the road. Was that kind of your game plan coming into this? It was just keep it on the road and see where we end up?
Well, yeah, after starting P13, I think that's the only way you can do it. Like, you need to hope for like a miracle for others. So yeah, we basically had a good strategy with the fuel saving at the beginning and just stayed out of any trouble. That was the focus on today. And yeah, I think that we were quite good in that. But yeah, as I said, sometimes it's really unlucky, some contacts. Yeah, and obviously the penalties, I don't know if they are deserved or not, but I didn't had a look at it. But in the end, yeah, it's just a little bit of a lucky win, but yeah, we would take it.
And finally, Dom, before I let you go, recover, and obviously enjoy the spoils of your victory, that is the 8th time this year that I've seen Urano take victory in this car. Obviously, next week we head to Watkins Glen. What's the chances of making that 9?
We'll see. I mean, a better qualifying will obviously help that. So we'll primarily keep working on that. Yeah, no, it's been, yeah, I'm not exactly sure what it is exactly, if there's anything majorly different. I don't think we are doing anything majorly different. We just try to drive fast and don't crash. So maybe there are days where we do it a bit better than the competition, but I think today was just an example of letting the race come to us, and I'm very happy, obviously, that it worked out. And as for Watkins, yeah, I mean, we've seen today. I mean, there's been a bit of I don't know, insecurity, or there was a bit of insecurity about the BOP going into the race, that the BMW was getting quite a lot of kilograms. But I think in the end it was pretty balanced out over the whole race. We saw lots of different cars being up there and being competitive. So yeah, we'll see for Watkins how it'll pan out. And but for sure we will work on a better qualifying. That's for sure.
Well, Jonas Wallmeyer, Dominic Hoffman, our race winners for the Urano Esports Data Group. Congrats, lads, and have a great night.
Yeah, thanks.
You too.
Perfect. Well, I think we'll head down to Greg, who I'm pretty sure is catching up with our GTD winners.
Yeah, and I'm really looking forward to this one. First of all, Alejandro, start with you real quick here. An absolutely great qualifying run, another pole. You've been stringing them together. But so important, obviously, to start at the front when you're in the second class in terms of outright pace, to not get mired back in that and have that traffic catch you even sooner. So, I mean, it started with a great qualifying.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's why we won the race. We just managed to get pole with this. I don't know how. I wasn't expecting such a thing. But in the end, yeah, as I said, a pretty good lap made the job, and we just got good traffic at the beginning, and that was enough to maintain the lead. It got very, very tight at the end, but yeah, Luke did a superb job as he always does, and we managed to get the win.
We talked during the race, and you had said in your first stint that traffic, the overtaking cars actually were working with you pretty well. In the second one, it got a little bit sketchy. Was there any information you were passing along to Luke about how to deal with that?
Not really. He saw what he needed to do, and he already knows. I just told him to look after the tires, which was crucial as well to the end. If he hadn't taken care of the tires, then it would have been a lot harder to keep Ole behind. But yeah, like he already knows what to do. I just told him to take care of the tires on T3, especially the car didn't land too well there, and yeah, it's really easy to kill the tires through there.
And let's talk, Luke, real quick here. Obviously, it looked in those last minutes when you were being hounded by Ollie, that traffic at that point from the overtaking cars wasn't being really good to you. There were a couple of times that they got you offline a little bit, and he started to eke into it. At what point did you really start to feel, oh boy, this one's going to be tough?
I mean, I wasn't getting too worried because the laps were counted down. He was gaining a lot, but not enough basically. So I kind of knew in my head that it was going to be fine. But I definitely was feeling it when it got to about 1 to 1.5 seconds. But luckily the traffic works both ways, and we both kind of gain and lose to each other. But they managed to get the win in the end, so yeah, really happy.
And I got to ask you, on that last lap through turn 7, it looked like Ollie got a really good run into 7, and it looked to me like maybe you overslowed just a little bit there, because you could then get the power down and get out, and he ended up skipping out over the curbs. Did you do that with intent, just a little bit of an overslow to get more into the power band of your car?
Yeah, I mean, as soon as I knew he wasn't gonna go for the move in T7, I could back up the entry just a little bit, obviously not too much to cause a crash, but yeah, just the exit was so important out of there. That was my main focus, and yeah, luckily he made a mistake, but I don't think it would have really made a difference in the end result.
Yeah, no, you executed that last lap in particular just superbly. Played your strengths where you had them, and got the job done. Incredible race, guys. And again, just continuing what's been a fabulous streak for Apex Racing Team. Congratulations.
Yeah, thanks, guys.
Thank you very much.
All right, back to Arjuna.
And great to be able to catch up with both of the drivers from each of our race winners. And of course, they don't have long to go before they have to do this all again. Watkins Glen International. Lewis, we talked a bit about it during the course of the day, but we've commentated on our fair share of races at Watkins Glen. Our fair share of rather slippery races, I think it's fair to say. I think we are hoping, though, that based on today, relatively good driving standards overall, to next week, 7 days from today, we should be in for a good show.
Yeah, I mean, look, the most important thing is for everyone to not go bowling down into the first corner. Of course, Watkins, a fantastic track, a tricky track, a fast and flowing one. I think based on today, I think we're in for an absolute treat of a race. And once again, I have absolutely no idea who's going to win, which is a great sign for us in the booth, and probably a great sign for everyone sat at home as well. Should be a fun one.
Greg, this first race has come to a close. What are you taking away as your main talking points after round number 1?
Just how excited I am for the rest of this season, primarily just the racing that we saw, the ability to strategize, that outside pass by Ollie up through turn 1. So many things just stand out from this one, and it's just going to keep getting better. Watkins Glen's such an amazing track, obviously, and I think you're right. Turn 1's an issue, but with this big pack, then getting him funneled up through the S's where those guardrails move in very, very closely, and you're carrying a lot of speed up through that section of track. I think that's where the big one can happen there, and that's where I think we're going to see a lot of excitement in the early going.
How the last 3 odd hours have flown on by. It's been a blast to be back for IMSA Esports in 2023, and I can't wait. I'm so glad it's only 7 days before we do it all over again. We started here at the Michelin Raceway Road Atlanta in 2022, and 2023 was no different, and the level of energy, the excitement was high. The drivers put on a show, but for the entire team behind the scenes, too many people to thank. For the entire team at IMSA, at iRacing, at VCO, at TFR Lab. Thank you so much for joining us. We'll see you in 7 days' time for our Junior Kanki Party. Lewis McLeod and Greg Creamer, congratulations to Urano Esports and the Mercedes-AMG Apex Racing teams, the winners of the first round in the 2023 IMSA Esports Michelin Global Championship.